Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, all sorts of good things. And guys, we do have a lot of things to cover here today. I am flying solo here today. Robert Meyer Burnett has a power outage at his house. There was a scheduled power outage to his place, so I'm flying solo today. Normally, I have a guest on Tuesdays, but today it's just you and me, and we've got a number of things to talk about. A couple of housekeeping items, though, guys, before we get into all of our main topics. First of all, if you're new around here, or if you haven't done so already, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to our YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the various things that we've got going on around here. Also, to let you know, this is how we run the show. The first half of the show, we're going to take some predetermined topics that we have lined up. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, here's how you get a live comment or question on the show. Simply go into the description of this video, and you'll see near the top a tip link. Go ahead and click on that, or enter it manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Once you get there, you're going to see this form. Make sure you guys remember to fill out your name at the top so I can make sure to give you a shout out when you send in your tip and your question. And we will get to that stuff a little bit later in the show. Also want to remind you guys that there is an audio only version of the John Campea Show that you can go and subscribe to right now in your podcasting app of choice. It is simply known as the John Campea Show podcast. And by the way, thank you to everybody who's left ratings and reviews of the podcast. By all means, please continue to do that. That helps the podcast out. So thank you very much to everybody who does that. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast so it is there when you need it. Also, guys, plug time. You guys know that I spent the last year working on a documentary feature film about movie trailers. It is simply called Movie Trailers: A Love Story, and it is now available anywhere you live worldwide. Simply go to vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers, and you can get it wherever you live. But by the way, if you happen to live in the US or the UK, you have another option. You can also watch it on Amazon if you choose. Simply go to Amazon and simply search for Movie Trailers: A Love Story, and you guys will find it there. And thank you to everybody who has already gone and watched our film and left the great reviews and all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys very, very much. It was very much a passion project, and we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it for this past year, and we're really happy with the results. And we're glad that you guys are too. Okay, guys. By the way, a special shout out to Soul Brother Mac, who sent in a super chat badge in the live chat. Appreciate that, man. All right, let's get into some stuff here. And we're going to start by going with a couple of things off the top. And the first thing off the top is this. 2020 was clearly a giant crap show, especially for everything. But here on this show, we talk about the movies. So particularly when it comes to the movies, it was an absolute crap show. Most films that scheduled to come out never got to come out. A lot of them got pushed into another year. Some of them got dumped onto streaming, all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean there weren't some wins when it comes to the box office. There were a number of films that were actually pretty good that got Invisible Man got out in theaters. I really loved that. The Gentleman got out in theaters. It's my second favorite film of the year. I love that. Another movie that got out this year that a lot of people were looking forward to, and it actually lived up to the hype, was Bad Boys for Life. As a matter of fact, it is now official. Bad Boys for Life is actually the biggest U.S. box office hit of 2020. You heard that right. Bad Boys for Life is the biggest U.S. box office hit for 2020. We go over to our friends at joeblow.com who write the following. This box office win has come with a bit of an asterisk, of course, since pretty much every major release in 2020 was delayed in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. But Sony Pictures has a reason to celebrate in regards to the success of Bad Boys for Life. The Will Smith and Martin Lawrence sequel has the distinction of being the biggest box office hit in the U.S. for 2020. That's an important distinction. Sony was lucky enough to release Bad Boys for Life in January of 2020, 2 months before the movie theaters began to shut down due to the pandemic. It made $206 million. $206 million in the domestic box office, making it the champion. Now, in a year that was a total crap fest when it comes to everything going on in the movie industry, you take that as win. Now they're saying that Bad Boys for Life is the second largest global box office film. I think the number one box office film globally was a Chinese film. However, you guys know me, I'm kind of dubious about the Chinese reporting when it comes to box office numbers in their own country. Hey, I'm not trying to start an argument. I'm just saying I've always been a little bit dubious about their reporting. So whatever, we'll just stick with Bad Boys for Life being the number one U.S. box office film. And by the way, thank you to Toonie2, who sent in a live chat, super chat in the chat board. Thank you for that, man. So look, and you know what? It couldn't have happened to a nicer movie. I would have been very, very happy if the number one U.S. box office movie had indeed been The Gentleman. That was my second favorite movie of the year. I would have been totally cool if Sonic had been the number one box office film of 2020. I enjoyed that film. Now, while I am not like the world's biggest Bad Boys fan, I got to admit, I found Bad Boys for Life very charming. I thought it was nice. And I'll tell you what, you guys know me. The things that really get me here are not scenes of romance or loss or tragedy. The things that get me right here in a movie are the outward, very demonstrative showings of friendship and loyalty, right? With that said, one of my favorite scenes of the year, and certainly my favorite scene in Bad Boys for Life. Now, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but the movie came out ages ago. If you haven't seen it yet, you're not interested in it. But I think my favorite scene in the movie is easily, and one of my favorite scenes of the year, was this scene when Will Smith was in the hospital and unconscious in the hospital. And Martin Lawrence had found out that Will Smith actually put in color on his beard to get rid of the gray in his beard mustache. And while he's unconscious in the hospital, Martin Lawrence, as his friend, sat there bedside painting in the beard and mustache coloring on his. To me, I don't like, shut up. That got me here. Okay. That made me emotional. Seeing those outward amazing demonstrations of friendship and loyalty. I'll take those over the gunfights in that movie any day. But overall, couldn't have happened to a nicer film. Bad Boys for Life. Never thought we would have said this going into 2020. Imagine going back into 2019 saying Bad Boys for Life is going to be the number one U.S. box office film of the year. And yet here we are. Couldn't have happened to a nicer film. I'm super happy for it. What do you guys think about that? Does it catch you by surprise? Does it make total sense to you? Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's do one more thing off the top here. And, you know, one of the themes of today's show is fact-checking. You know, quite often a piece of information comes out that is very questionable or completely inaccurate, but enough people pick up on it and everybody just assumes it's true. Let's jump to this for a second. One of the great podcasts out there is the Mark Maron podcast, the W2F podcast. And he recently had Patty Jenkins on it. Now, I hadn't listened to that episode of the podcast. Patty Jenkins, obviously the director of Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984. And reports started going around about this podcast that Patty Jenkins was saying Warner Brothers didn't even want to use her. They didn't even want to look at her script. They only wanted her for Wonder Woman because she was a woman and it's a woman character and all that and all these things started to come out. And I thought that's really interesting. So it led to having like headlines like Patty Jenkins details internal war at Warner Brothers over Wonder Woman. There was so much mistrust and other things they got. They even wrote this. Now listen to this. This is key. We'll pick it up from here and we'll go down to here. All right. Listen, Jenkins described an internal war at Warner Brothers where the studio was apparently less interested in her ideas than the symbol of a woman director helming a female fronted superhero movie. They wanted to hire me like a beard. They wanted me to walk around on set as a woman, but it was their story and their vision, Jenkins said. And my ideas? They didn't even want to read my script. There was such mistrust of a different way of doing things and a different point of view. Okay. Now, this is coming to us from IndieWire. IndieWire is one of the truly good outlets out there. I just want to put that out there First and foremost, IndieWire is one of the truly good, high standard publications out there. I like IndieWire very, very much, and they're very, very reliable. But we've got to fact check this. Let's look at this wording again. They say Jenkins describes an internal war at Warner Brothers where the studio was apparently less interested in her ideas than the symbol of a woman director helming a female-fronted superhero. And then they quote Patty Jenkins saying, they wanted to hire me like a beard. They wanted me to walk around on set as a woman, but it was their story and their vision and my ideas. They didn't even want to read my script. Okay, so the picture that gets painted here, the picture that they paint is a picture of Warner Brothers only being interested in having Patty Jenkins for that movie because she was a woman and they didn't even want to read her script. And then I have read for days people running with that. So I finally thought, well, that sounds pretty major. I should go and listen to this podcast myself. And Leandro sends in a super chat on the super chat badge on the live chat. Thank you for that, Leandro. I thought I better go and listen to this podcast myself. So last night, I sat down and I listened to the entire podcast, Mark Maron with Patty Jenkins. It was just, I think it was just about an hour long, something like that. Anyway, so I read it. And certainly, true enough, Patty Jenkins does say this. Patty Jenkins absolutely says they wanted to hire me like a beard. They wanted me to walk around on set. They didn't even want to use my script. But here's the problem. When you listen to the podcast, and these little details, these little facts are important. When you listen to the podcast, this whole thing that Patty Jenkins is saying, they wanted to hire me like a beard, my ideas, they didn't even want to read my script. She was not talking about Warner Brothers or the Wonder Woman project. That is an important distinction to make. So while IndieWire, and again, I have all the respect in the world for IndieWire. They're awesome. However, they dropped the ball here. And it wasn't just them. IndieWire and a lot of other outlets, they started running with this narrative that, oh, Warner Brothers they only wanted to use her because she was a woman and they didn't want to use her script or listen to her ideas. But when you listen to the podcast itself, she is, and the Blue Corner sends in a super chat badge on the live chat. Thanks for that, Blue Corner. When you listen to the actual podcast, Patty Jenkins clearly was telling a story in a chronological order. And she's talking about coming out of doing Monster and a lot of the TV work she had done. And she talks about how a lot of the studios only wanted to use her as a beard and didn't even want to hear her ideas or look at her scripts and things like that. And then she talks later about then getting connected with the Wonder Woman project and telling her story about being involved with the Wonder Woman project. Now, there was definitely some drama, some back and forth going on with the Wonder Woman project as well. But this is this article, and again, it sounds like I'm picking on IndieWire, and I certainly don't mean to. A lot of outlets were running with stuff like this. The way they laid it out, specifically the way it's worded, Jenkins described an internal war at Warner Brothers where the studio is apparently less interested in her ideas than the symbol of a woman directing a female-fronted. That's not true. That is not what Patty Jenkins was saying in the podcast. I sat, I listened to it. She was talking about experiences before being connected to Wonder Woman. And then she talks about her experiences being connected to Wonder Woman. So again, all due respect to IndieWire, who is a terrific outlet. You're seeing these headlines all over the place. When you hear people talking about this story, guys, now you can fact check them. It is not true. That is not the way the podcast was laid out. The author, in this case, Zach Scharf, just accidentally, and I'm sure it was an accident, accidentally took parts of the podcast and got them in the wrong order and said she was talking about this stuff with Wonder Woman. That's not the case. That's not what happened. So anyway, yeah, and I encourage you guys, it's actually a very interesting interview that Mark Maron does with Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins said something really interesting in the podcast. And she said this. She talked about when she was done with Monster, everybody was throwing all these scripts at her, but they were all about the same thing. They're all about the struggle of being a woman in this or the struggle of being a woman in that. And Patty Jenkins said something really interesting. She said, I want to make movies about women. I don't want to make movies about being a woman. And at first I thought, wasn't that same thing? And then I backed up and I listened to her say it again. I thought, you know what? No, that's actually very profound. She says, I want to tell stories about women kicking ass and doing great things and all this kind of stuff. I don't want to make all my movies just make about the struggle of being a woman. I want to make movies about women. I don't want to make movies about being a woman. I thought that was pretty insightful. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you guys think about Patty Jenkins' comments and these reports? Have you seen those reports going around yourself? Does that put a little bit more clarity on it? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's now move into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 when you come across a big topic or story that you think we should cover here on the show. Just head on over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Armand Smythe, who writes, Hey, John, as we get into the new year, it's looking more and more like there will indeed be an Oscars to quote-unquote celebrate the films of 2020. I know you've had your reservations about that before, especially with them talking about having a live audience for it. But now that we're in the new year, I was wondering if maybe you've changed your position on it. I know I love the Oscars and kind of hope they still have them. Wouldn't you still be excited for the awards if they move ahead? Thank you from a fan since 2012. Well, thank you so much for that, Armand. I really appreciate that, man. And yeah, listen, one of the topics of conversation we've clearly had around here a lot lately has been regarding the whole issue of the Academy Awards. And the bigger question, should they even be doing an Academy Awards? Is an Academy Awards really even something they should do this year? The reality is that 2020, like we said off the beginning of the show, has been a complete crap show, right? So many of the movies that were supposed to come out this year never even got out. Some of the movies that did get to come out did not get to come out the way they wanted to. The culture has been understandably incredibly distracted from the movies. There have been bigger, more important things going on in the world. The year of 2020, despite the fact that there have been absolutely some fantastic movies this year, no doubt, there have been some incredible movies this year. The reality is, this is a lost year. 2020 is essentially a lost year. Yes, there were some great ones, but overall, we did not get what you would call a standard year for the Academy Awards. That much is clear. So there are two separate issues here when it comes to the Oscars that Armand brings up. Number one, the Oscars has talked about we're going to do a live in-person Oscars, which is just asinine to talk about. Now, granted, the Oscars don't happen until April. I get it. But to talk about having a live audience at an event while we're in the midst of massive spikes in a pandemic is tone deaf at best, asinine at worst. I mean, I honestly don't know what goes on. And I love the Academy. I love the Oscars, but sometimes I don't know what the flippin' F they're drinking over there. To talk about we're going to have a live audience at Oscars. You know what? Maybe it'll be possible in April to have a live audience. Maybe. Talk about that later. Maybe not in the midst when over 100,000 Americans are in hospital beds right now. Maybe not in the midst of the biggest spikes in the pandemic we've ever had. Maybe that's not the time to demonstrate how out of touch you are by talking about having a live audience at your Oscars. If the circumstance warrant, talk about it later. Anyway, so there's that. There was that whole thing. But then there's the bigger question about should they even have an Oscars at all? And my position through all the changes, and now we're in a new year, has my position changed at all? Actually, no. I am more convinced than ever that they should not have an Oscars this year. And there's a couple of very important reasons why. And I'm sure many of you will disagree, and that's cool. But I'm just going to tell you, as the guy who the Oscars is my second favorite day of the year besides Christmas, even more important than my own birthday, even more important than, just making sure Anne's not here, my anniversary, is the Oscars. The Oscars is my second favorite day of the year. So I say this as a huge Oscars fan, right? Nobody's going to care about the Oscars this year because nobody was thinking about the movies this year. Aside from the fact that this was such an odd year with so few films that actually got their shot, like to have somebody win an Oscar when the competition field was 70% smaller than what a normal year would have been means whenever you mention that Oscar winner, you got to put an asterisk beside it. You got to put an asterisk beside it. You can't, like when every Oscar winner had to compete against an enormous number of other competitors, there is a certain prestige that goes with the Oscars. You have an Oscars representing a year where there was 70% less contenders, yet somebody still gets the Academy Award. To me, that lessens it. So you got two things. Number one, we're talking about a year where nobody was thinking about the movies. Number two, you have a much smaller field than normally. Some excellent films, yes, but a much smaller field. To me, that right away negates anything about any Oscar win this year. Why don't, and then it feels weird. It feels weird. Now there's nothing objective about this. This is just kind of a feeling I have, and feelings aren't worth much, but I'm just going to tell you what my feel. There's something that feels a little bit weird about having this big celebration around a year that was so completely awful for so many people. Again, there's nothing quantifiable to that. I'm just saying it just internally to me, it feels weird. Having this big, huge celebration of the year that was 2020 when so many horrible, terrible things happened in 2020. Again, that's just a nitpick. Again, it's just my feeling. It doesn't really mean anything. I'm just something there. So John, some people might say, but John, what do you do then? What do you do with these great films that came out this year and deserve an opportunity to be recognized? In a horrible situation like this, there is no perfect answer. All right, I'll acknowledge that right now. There is no perfect answer. And my recommendation may not be the best recommendation. I acknowledge that. It may not be. But here's what I would want to suggest. I think not a perfect way, but the best way to deal with this situation is this. Have all the films that would have been eligible for this Oscars become also eligible, like just cancel this year's ceremony and move and say everybody, all the films that came out this year, you will also be qualified. You will qualify for next year's Oscars. Because I think personally, and again, you guys may disagree, and that's perfectly good if you do. But my personal thought is, I would rather have an Oscars competition and an Oscars ceremony where there is an overabundance of competition than having an Oscars ceremony and give out Oscars when there was underrepresentation for those Oscars, when there wasn't many competitors for that Oscar. And you know what I'll even say? I'll go so far as to say this. And I don't love this idea, but I will go so far as to say this. If you want to have the Oscars in 2022, then maybe even say, you know what, for this one year, for this one special year, every category will have 2 winners. So we will have Best Picture nominees, and we'll still have 10 nominees, but we are going to give co-awards to 2 films to recognize the fact. Again, that's not a perfect answer, but I think it's a better answer. Again, I just don't see many people caring about the Oscars this year because it was a year that nobody really thought about them. Underrepresentation, asterisks having to go besides the name, talking about having live audiences, which they may be able to do, but talk about that later. I don't know. All these things to me just, again, leave me in a place where I feel like it's a little tone deaf to have an Oscar ceremony for the year of 2020. I just think there's too many things that have gone into it. But again, I know I'm in the minority on that. I recognize, I had this discussion with Aaron Cummings about 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. Erin Cummings was on the show with me, and she raised some really good points about why she feels they should do an Oscar ceremony this year. I wish my opinion has changed, but it has not. I still feel that way. Question is, guys, how do you feel about it? Do you think the Oscars should go ahead and happen this year? Do you think, you know what, just get it over with and let's move on to the next year? Maybe you feel like I do, that there's too many things that have just rotted it up. Just wait till the following year. Maybe you have a different idea somewhere in between. Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's move into main topic number 2, shall we? And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Niels V, who writes, "Hello, John. Wonder Woman was universally loved by most people." It's true. It wasn't universally loved, but most people loved it. Critics, audiences, the box office certainly loved it. But as soon as a questionable film came out, Wonder Woman 84, everyone started doubting the director and the franchise. My question is, we're about to get our very first Marvel show on Disney Plus with WandaVision. If it is terrible, how badly could that affect people's attitudes towards the future of Disney Plus MCU shows if their first one is bad? How bad could the damage be? All right, thanks a lot for sending in your question, Niels. And that is actually a pretty good question. That's a pretty good question. Because when you stop and think about it, everybody was very bullish on Wonder Woman and the Wonder Woman franchise, you know, coming out of the first Wonder Woman movie and seeing Wonder Woman in some other films. Everybody was very bullish, very excited. I know I was very excited about Wonder Woman 84. The movie disappointed me, but still, I was very excited going into it. On top of that, you know, even though the fact the trailers I didn't think were all that great, I still believe the movie was great, a lot of enthusiasm. So you got all this energy, all this excitement. The first Wonder Woman was a big hit, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. But then 84 comes out and it's a disappointment. And I was one of the people that it disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I was one of the people that it disappointed. And all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of people that are like, oh, well, maybe Patty Jenkins isn't that good of a director. She spent years like making films that got AFI awards and Cannes awards and Oscar awards. And she's done television where she's nominated for Emmys. Her Wonder Woman movie was the first big breakout hit for the DCEU. But one bad film, and I agree, it was bad. I think Wonder Woman 84 was bad. And then all of a sudden, everybody's questioning whether they should even do a Wonder Woman 3. Is Patty Jenkins even all that good? And everybody's ready to jump off the ship after one bad film. So it's an interesting question then to raise. Well, and that was with a franchise, Wonder Woman, that had a strong start. Now we're heading into WandaVision, and you guys know how excited I am for WandaVision. It's not my most anticipated Disney Plus MCU show. That's Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's definitely right up there. Right up there with Loki and a few others, but I'm very, very excited for WandaVision. I cannot wait for this thing to start. I think the trailers have been bonkers and crazy and interesting and creates a lot of mystery about it. I cannot wait. I don't think they could have marketed this show any better. I'm very, very excited about it. But what happens? Because I think it's fair to say all of us have really high expectations and we're very excited. But the question actually is, what happens if the show is terrible? What happens if this show sucks? Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that it's going to suck. Not at all. I have high expectations. But if this one series and show is bad, just follow me here. To Niels's point, if this one show is bad, what does that do to the overall energy level, hype level, excitement level, expectation levels that all of us fans have about the Disney Plus MCU world we have coming down the pipe? You know, Loki and Hawkeye, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, you know, you name it. Squirrel Girl at some point, I'm sure. But this habit that we as fans, we are very trigger happy as fans. You know, something can be going great. The moment something goes wrong, we seem to think the sky is falling. And I think Don't pretend like you don't do this too. We all do it. This is a habit of all fans, not all the time, but all of us have done this at some point. The moment something goes wrong, a lot of us begin to panic. And honestly, I can see a scenario where WandaVision comes out and it's terrible, and then all of a sudden, everybody's like, R.I.P. Disney Plus, R.I.P. MCU. Oh, now Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to suck, and this is going to suck. And before you think that's an impossibility, again, just look at the Wonder Woman situation. Wonder Woman had an incredibly big hit in its first film. Critics loved it. Audiences loved it. Big box office numbers, all that kind of stuff. Big enthusiasm coming in. So it had already strong foundation. The next film doesn't go well, and everybody's jumping off the train. So what will happen to a WandaVision show that has no backing? This is the first Disney Plus show they're trying. They've never done anything like this. What happens? How's the audience going to react if it's bad? Now, listen, I have said before in the past, and I still believe, that the MCU in general, not just as it pertains to Disney Plus, but the MCU in general has had so many wins. I mean, seriously, the MCU is win after win after win after win for 10 years. With the odd little road bump in an Iron Man 2 or a Thor the Dark World. But for the most part, 20 plus films in, they have a track record of win after win after win after win after win. And so I've always said, when somebody said to me, hey, John, what happens if the next MCU film is bad? To me, I don't even think it's anything more than a speed bump. The MCU will be perfectly fine if the next MCU movie is terrible. Even if the next MCU movie comes out and it's worse than Batman and Robin, the MCU will still be fine because they have such a long track record of success and glory and victory. One speed bump isn't going to derail them. But there could be a different dynamic in play here, considering this is the first time they're doing this Disney Plus thing with the MCU. It's the first series they're doing that Kevin Feige is in control of. And there's something different when it's a first. Now, look, I think at the end of the day, honestly, this conversation is all theoretical because I believe this show is going to be awesome. The trailers certainly look awesome. You got all the right players involved. So this discussion and conversation is really just academic. But if it does go south, I will be interested to see what kind of collateral damage there could be to the overall enthusiasm of the fan base towards the upcoming palette of Disney Plus MCU shows. I think it might be a little bit more severe than we think, but again, it's probably all academic because the show is probably going to be awesome. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you guys think about that? First of all, where's your expectation right now for Falcon and Winter Soldier, or for Falcon and Winter Soldier? Where's your expectation level right now for WandaVision? Do you think it's going to be great? But if in the off chance it turns out to be terrible, what kind of collateral damage do you think we could see with the overall fan base and our overall enthusiasm for the upcoming slate? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with that down, let's move into our third and final main topic today. And our third and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Parker Sheldon, who writes, hey, John. About a week ago, the New York Times published an interview with the head of DC Films, that's Walter Hamada. Hamada said that Warner Brothers will have 2 Batman sagas with different actors running concurrently. The author of the interview was recently asked for clarification about the other Batman that Hamada was referencing. The author said that Hamada was talking about none other than Michael Keaton himself. No, he didn't, but we'll get into that in a second. Do you think they're actually going to bring Keaton back in a larger capacity? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks. All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And look, this all started yesterday. Let me take you back, guys, to yesterday on the John Campea Show. So I'm doing the John Campea Show yesterday. And what happens, it happens once in a while, that a piece of breaking news comes out during the show, right? And so it was during the live Q&A part of the show. And I see in the live chat board that people start saying, John, it's now official. Michael Keaton is replacing Ben Affleck. Michael Keaton is going to be that. They're going to build the Batman around that. And I saw a bunch of people writing that in. So what I did was, while we were doing the show, I opened up a browser window on my other monitor and I started looking it up, and I found where all this was coming from. And I remember, and I looked at it and I thought, that doesn't look right. So I'm not going to bring it up right now. And I didn't. I'm not going to bring it up right now. So I didn't during the show. As it turns out, it's a good thing I didn't bring him up. So here's the thing. You guys remember that a little while back, Walter Hamada did this big piece in the New York Times and talking about, and one of the big things to come out of it was, yeah, our audience is sophisticated enough that we can run with 2 concurrent Batman franchises and all that kind of stuff, and we can do all this. Somebody's going to replace Ben Affleck, they said in the article, but our audience is sophisticated enough we can do 2 Batman at the same time. I'm a little bit dubious about that, but, you know, hey, it could happen and it could work. So why did everybody on the internet start running around saying Michael Keaton is the new Batman? Michael Keaton is the guy that's going to be doing this. Well, here's what happened. And it doesn't help that you had, you know, outlets like Screen Rant running the headline, Michael Keaton, not Ben Affleck, is the DCEU's main Batman going forward. So you think, if you're going to have a headline like this, and again, I'm not trying to pick on Screen Rant. A lot of outlets did it, okay? It's not just Screen Rant. So I'm not trying to pick on Screen Rant. But if you're going to run with a headline that says, Michael Keaton, not Ben Affleck, is the DCEU's main Batman going forward, well, you must have some pretty compelling evidence, right? Well, here's where all of this came from. So I went and looked at this tweet while we were doing the show yesterday to decide if I should bring it up on air, that Michael Keaton is the new Batman, replacing Ben Affleck as the DCEU's main Batman. And it came from this. A random dude asked, Brooks Barnes, by the way, is the guy who conducted the interview. And Gabriel Cielo sends in a super chat badge in the live chat, man. Thank you so much for supporting us that way, Gabriel. Appreciate that, man. Brooks Barnes is the author, the writer for the New York Times, who did that interview. Okay. So somebody was a little unclear about something that was in the thing, so they wrote to the author to ask the question. I think this is great. What Nestor Cine does. Anyway, writes, "Hi, Brooks. Based on your Hamada piece, some have interpreted that Warner Brothers is doing 2 franchises starring Ben Affleck, one with Pattinson, one with a new actor. Is that correct, or were you referring to Keaton as a second Batman being part of a non-Batman-centric saga? Thank you." All right. Fair question. Here's the response. One word. Keaton. Keaton. That was it. Just Keaton. That was the whole answer to the question. Keaton. And I remember we were doing the show live, and it's hard for me to be doing the show live, like answering questions and trying to look at other things while I'm answering a different question. It is really trying to walk and chew bubblegum and do taxes at the same time. But I remember looking at that and I thought, that one word answer, Keaton, when you look at the question, and Insomniac sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Insomniac. Appreciate that. When you look at the question, and again, let's take a look at the question. The way the question is worded, even the question itself is a little confusing. Doing 2 franchises starring Ben, one with Pattinson, one with new actor. Is that correct? Or were you referring to Keaton as a second Batman being part of it? So Brooks just said, Keaton, I'm generally talking about Keaton. And I remember looking at that and I remember thinking to myself, well, that could mean anything. I mean, really, that could mean anything. I don't look at that and think this is certainly not enough. A one-word Twitter reply answer to that kind of a question is certainly not enough justification to run with a headline. And again, I'm not trying to pick on Screen Rant. A lot of places did that. To run with the headline, Michael Keaton is DCEU's next Batman going forward. It's like, wait a minute. Based on a newspaper writer's one-word answer to a random guy on the internet's question about something, and we're running with that? And I just remember thinking, that doesn't feel right. So I decided not to bring it up. On the show. And it turns out it's a good thing that I didn't, because that writer, that author, Brooks Barnes, then got on Twitter to clarify what he was talking about, with the whole internet running wild saying Michael Keaton is the new main DCEU Batman moving forward, based on a one-word answer, Barnes got back on the internet, got back on Twitter, and he wrote this. I've been offline, moving apartments, and I returned to see this Michael Keaton craziness. I was referring to the one film that Keaton has been announced as being in, not a set of his own Batman films. If I had info on him beyond the Flash, I would have obviously put that in my article. And that was one of the things that really made me look at it and go, huh? Like if they were reporting that Michael Keaton was going to star in a new series of Batman films himself, that's not something you hide in a one-word answer somewhere in the 8th paragraph of a larger article. That is a headline leading story. And so Brooks says himself, again specifically, I was referring to the one film, talking about Flashpoint, that Keaton has been announced as being in, not a set of his own Batman films, because, as common sense would say, if I had info on him beyond the Flash movie, you bet your ass I would have obviously put that in my article. But he did not. He did not. So look, it's completely understandable to me why a lot of people started writing in on my show yesterday during the live questions part saying, Keaton's the new Batman. Keaton's the new. It's totally understandable because people were seeing headlines like this. They're seeing those headlines. But again, while we're doing so, I just looked at it. It's like he just gave a one-word answer to a little bit of a convoluted question. I don't know if we can pull that meaning out of it. And as it turns out, now we know what the meaning of it was. He wasn't talking about that. So if you are out and running around online today and you see people saying, did you hear Michael Keaton is the next Batman? They're going to be doing a Batman series based on Michael Keaton, who, by the way, just to be clear, I would not be opposed to. I'm not saying I'd be completely against. I mean, he is approaching 70 years old and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not saying I'd be opposed to the idea of Michael Keaton suiting up to have a couple of Batman films based on him. I'm not saying I'd be against that. Don't get me wrong. Don't misinterpret me. But the next time you're out around today, probably on the interwebs, if the word hasn't gotten out fast enough yet, and you see people talking about how Michael Keaton's going to have his own Batman movies, now you can point out, no, he's not. And you guys can point them specifically, again, to that author's tweet. His name's Brooks Barnes. That's at Brooks Barnes, New York Times, NYT. You can go there and point people saying, nope. The dude who wrote it clarified it afterwards. That's not the case. That's not what's happening. And there you go. It is important that we all have the right information. All right, guys, question is, what do you think about that? First of all, would you have been excited about Michael Keaton getting his own line of Batman movies? I'm not going to lie. The idea is intriguing. Did you know right away that wasn't the case? Whatever it is, what do you guys think about this? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that down and out of the way, let's now move over to the live comments and questions for the show. Once again, if you want to get in a live comment or question on the show, simply use the tip link that's near the top of the description of the video. You can click on it there, or you can enter it in manually, www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Guys, please make sure to fill in your name part, because if you guys are sending us in fun questions to talk about and you're supporting the channel, I want to make sure we get you guys a shout out too. So a lot of people forget to put their name. Make sure you fill it out, unless of course you don't want to fill out your name. If you don't want to fill out your name, then you don't fill out your name. All right, guys, let's get into it, shall we? We're going to start things off here with Stubble McShave, who writes, my favorite Tom Clancy quote, what's the difference between fiction and reality? Fiction has to make sense. Dude, I've seen that quote used a lot. That is a great line and a great quote, especially in today's environment. But I've seen that quote used over the years, and you're right, it is a totally great thing. We need more Tom Clancy stuff being converted into movies. I know there's been a lot. I think we need even more. That's a great line, Stubble. Thanks for sharing that. Not Kevin Feige writes, Deadpool 2 felt more 80s than Wonder Woman 84 did. Yeah, it's funny. You know, one of my criticisms, and listen, you guys know I don't think Wonder Woman 84 is a terrible movie. I just think it's bad, and I think I was disappointed with it. And there are a number of things that I liked about it. There are, but one of the things that was a little bit off-putting to me was you call the movie Wonder Woman 84, and being 84 has no relevance to the movie. Like, there's nothing other than that one kind of montage mall sequence near the beginning of the film. There's really nothing about this movie that is 80s. They certainly don't play into the nostalgia of the 80s like a Hot Tub Time Machine does, or, Stranger Things does, or whatever. It's just weird that if you're going to name it 1984, you'd think they play more into that. And yes, Deadpool 2 felt a little bit more 80s than Wonder Woman did. All right, Captain Blue Pants writes, "Hey, John, did you see a little while ago that Google added Baby Yoda, oh yes, added Baby Yoda to their 3D VR models? All you have to do is Google Baby Yoda, click View in 3D, and it will use your phone camera to put Baby Yoda in your room. You can walk around and take pics with it." Oh, listen, dude. Listen. They had my wife. First of all, my wife loves the Baby Yoda. Whenever we watch Mandalorian, the moment, every scene, not each episode, every scene that Baby Yoda comes on camera, all I can hear from the other side of the couch is my wife going, "Oh." I mean, that's, yeah. And I think there are a lot of people around the world that did that. So, the first thing I saw with this VR Baby Yoda was definitely in bed as my wife is getting up. Man, we're laying in bed, getting ready to go sleep. And, I'm reading some articles on my iPad, and she gets up and runs in the bathroom and then comes back, like with her phone. And then she gets up and runs out into the hallway and comes back with her phone. Then she gets up and runs downstairs and then comes back upstairs with her phone. I'm like, what are you doing? And then she shows me these pictures she's taking of Baby Yoda in our various rooms. Everything Baby Yoda related. And listen, I've got it on good authority that the Baby Yoda 1-to-1 scale thing that Hot Toys has done more than tripled. Follow this. More than tripled their previous highest selling item in history. That's how popular Baby Yoda is. Never underestimate the Baby Yoda. Dungeon Wolf is writing in the live chat, Baby Yoda as the new Batman. There you go. Oh my God. There's the world's, pandemic or not, there's the world's first $3 billion film. Baby Yoda as Batman. Somehow Disney and Warner Brothers come together for this multi-billion-dollar idea. It's like, what if we make a world where Baby Yoda's in the real world and everybody just acts like it's normal? What do you think, Baby Yoda? Whatever. And then something goes down and Baby Yoda does that little furrow with his eyes and goes down a bat pole and comes out Baby Yoda and a little baby bat. Somebody make that poster. Somebody make that poster. I don't know. Somebody reach out to Boss Logic or something. Somebody get Boss Logic on the line. And I think he follows me on Twitter. Maybe I should just tweet it myself. But somebody get an artist to make that poster. Baby Yoda Batman. And don't call Baby Yoda Batman. Just say, Batman arises. But it's Baby Yoda as Batman. That, I'm telling you right now, that is a $3 billion film. Pandemic or not, that is the world's first $3 billion film. Take it to the bank. It's going to happen. Somebody make that work. All right, next up. Gabby writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John. Oscars Day is one of my favorite days of the year, mine too. However, while it seems the 2021 Oscars will happen in April, I think they should cancel this year because many movies that were released in 2020 and that would have never gotten a nomination I'm guessing Anonymous is Gabby too, in the pre-COVID era, might possibly get a nomination this year because of the small pool of movies eligible for this year's Oscars. I completely agree. What are your thoughts, and do you think they may eventually pull the plug on this year's Oscars? Thanks. No, listen, I believe they should pull the plug on this year's Oscars, but it is looking more and more like they will not. And I agree. When you have a year where only 30% of your regular number of eligible films are out there, that means there are going to be a lot of movies that are getting nominations that they never would have got in a normal year. And that's why I would rather see them push it off to the next year. And if you want to, double up on the awards next year if you want to. But at least then you'd have a really competitive field for those awards. You do an Oscars 2020, yeah, you got some really, really good films, but it's not nearly as competitive of a field as it normally is. And you're going to get winners that never would have won in a normal year. And you're going to get tons of nominees that never would have been nominated in a normal year. And now those movies get to be mentioned with some of the all-time greats. And I would rather see them push it off till next year, include all the films from 2021, from 2020 in next year's Oscars as well. And if you want to double up on awards, fine. I would rather have double up awards for 1 year when they're all coming out of a truly competitive field. Now, again, I know not everybody sees it the way I do, and I respect that. That's great, but that's just kind of the way I see it. Thanks for writing that in, Gabby. Next up, Ann Perkins writes, one of the characters from one of my favorite shows, Parks and Rec, writes, "Hey, John and Rob, who's not here today. Loving the hair, John." Yeah, for those of you who don't know, like I'm in crisis mode right now, guys. I am in crisis mode when it comes to my hair. Because of pandemic and everything, I haven't really been able to get my hair cut. You know me, I like to keep my hair nice and short, tight. I mean, just look at my logo. Look at my logo. I like to keep my hair nice, short, tight, neat. I like to be able to brush my hair with a face cloth. I like being able to brush my hair with a face cloth. Step out of the shower, just go whoop, and my hair is done because it's so short. But now I did used to have hair down to here in my band playing days, but for the last number of years, this is by far the longest my hair has ever been. It looks horrible right now. I have terrible hair, but this is by far the longest my hair has been in at least a decade. And it's difficult to manage and all this kind of stuff too. And whatever, I hate my hair right now. God, I hate my hair, but my wife wants me to grow it out. That's my conundrum. My conundrum right now is my wife wants me to grow my hair out. And you know, guys, what the wife wants, the wife gets. And so I'm trying to grow it out, but I have a feeling I'm going to probably going to cave in at some point and sneak off in the middle of the day to a barbershop and get my hair cut. But I don't know. We'll hang in there. Now, at the same time, you know, I'm grateful to have hair. Like my dad, like all the men on my dad's side of the family all go bald. My dad, my grandfather did, my uncles, my dad's brother did. I mean, my cousins on my dad's side did. So don't get me wrong. I'm not taking for granted. I love the fact that I have hair, but I'm just thinking I'd like to have it short, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, sorry, that wasn't the question. What are we talking about? Hi, John and Rob. Loving the hair. Thank you, Anne. Did you see the newly released, never before seen clip that Peacock released from The Office where Jim tricks, I did watch this, where Jim tricks Dwight into thinking he's in the Matrix? I laugh so hard. That show is timeless. I tell you something. This may sound weird to say. Let me see if I can find it here. The Office tricks... opening. You gotta understand, I had what felt like a really, really special experience the other day. I love The Office, much like many, many people love The Office, right? I love The Office. And Peacock, you guys know that The Office is now moved over to Peacock. It's no longer on Netflix. It's moved over to Peacock. And a part, I guess, of the celebration was they released online a never before seen cold open. It was the first time in like 7 years that I remember sitting down on my TV the other day and I was about to hit play. I'm like, I'm about to watch something new from The Office that hasn't happened in years. It's been years since I've seen something from The Office that I've never seen before. And they do this sketch where Jim is clearly pulling a prank on Dwight. And it was great. It was absolutely great. I loved it. I don't know why it never got in there. I don't know why it was pulled and never made a part of the show itself. I don't know why they ever did that and why it wasn't in there, but whatever. It was so cool. And it makes me wonder, do they have more to come? Do they have more never before seen things? I don't know if they do. I don't know if they don't. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But to me, it was very special to see that. I really, really did enjoy seeing that. Thanks for writing that in, Ann Perkins. Next up, McKeel writes, every time I see someone telling you that you should check out Kingdom, I get a good laugh because in my head, I'm imagining it being the same person every time, just changing their name. Maybe. So I have had, listen, it has happened several times over the history of this show that I've had some people write in and say, John, you should check out this show. Let's take Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn animated show, for example. I had zero interest in that show. Zero. First of all, I very rarely, very, very rarely do I like anything Marvel or DC animated. I usually don't like. There are a few exceptions. There are a few very good exceptions, but for the most part, I find, quite frankly, I find most of DC and Marvel's animated stuff total crap. For the most part. So this Harley Quinn show's coming out, and I'm like, not interested. It's another one of the either DC or Marvel animated things, not interested. And then I see a trailer for it coming out of Comic-Con, and I remember thinking, oh, that sucks. That sucks. Like, it looked terrible. I thought the ads for the Harley Quinn show were terrible. So what happened was, I had a bunch of people writing in on the show saying, John, you really should check it out. It's actually really good. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then more people writing, no, seriously, John, we've just watched it too, and it's actually really great. I'm like, hey, look, I respect that you like it, but I don't like this kind of stuff. And then more people, and then more people, and then more people. So finally I went, okay, fine. You guys have beat me down. I'll check out this stupid Harley Quinn show. One of the best things on TV. One of the best things on TV. Again, there are only a handful of things that Ann and I make a point to make sure we watch together. Harley Quinn every week like clockwork. That was one of the things that we always made sure we watched together. Love that show. So now people have been writing in about this show Kingdom that I have very little interest in, but I've been hearing from more and more people that maybe I should check it out. Maybe I should check it out at some point. But if you guys haven't watched the Harley Quinn animated show because you think it looks dumb, hey, I feel you. I wasn't going to watch it either. I thought it looked incredibly stupid. Oh my God, it's so good. It's not for everyone, but I find it ludicrously entertaining. You should check it out if you get a chance. All right. Anyway, Jesse 2021 writes, Jesse writes, in 2021, I want to flex my creative muscles a bit more and get more into photography. That is awesome. I was wondering if you have any recommendations for a quality camera, not just for photography, but filming as well, as I'd like to try that a bit too. Thanks. Well, there are a couple of things. It depends on what your price point is. So let's say you don't want to go ridiculously expensive. There are two cameras that I would recommend. All right. Let's start with this here first. Canon M, I believe it's called the Canon M. I think it's the Canon M20. It might be the 200. Maybe it's the 200. Oh, the M50. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the Canon M50. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. The Canon M50 is a really nice little camera. It's Canon. It is good for photography. It is good for video. So if you want to do video with it as well, video is definitely an option. And let me see if I can bring it up here. So it's a nice little camera. A lot of YouTubers and vloggers and things like that, some Twitch streamers, they choose a Canon M50. And if I'm not mistaken, it's around a $600 or $700 price point. So it's really for the type of camera you're getting. It gives you really good diversity with photography, really good interchangeable lenses, really good options for filming as well. So that's a good one. The Canon M50, okay? Canon M50. Now, the one that I really like and the one that I use, the cameras I use in this studio as we speak, the camera I use is called the Sony A6400. Now, there's different models of the A series, but I actually shoot my show on these cameras, the Sony A6400s. They are fabulous. E-mount lenses. It takes the E-mount lens mount. I have a 30 millimeter prime lens on this one. I have another 30 millimeter prime lens on this camera over here. I have a 15 millimeter prime lens. I have a 55 millimeter prime lens, blah, blah, blah. They're great and they're relatively expensive. You can get good prime lenses for pretty cheap. I shot my movie. That is on Amazon. Movie Trailers Love Story. I've shot that movie on Sony A6400s. And you can get those, you can get them brand new for around $800 to $900. You could probably get them on eBay if you want to go secondhand for like $600 to $700. Now, this is a far cry from the $3,000 to $4,000 if you want to get into the big serious cameras. But if you're looking for something that you know is going to take great photos, shoot beautiful, crisp, wonderful video, all at the same time with a reasonable price and give you the flexibility of good interchangeable lenses. Again, the two things I would recommend at the slightly cheaper point is the Canon M50. But my actual recommendation, if you can save enough shekels together to get it, would be the Sony A6400. It's not the newest model in the A series, but I have 4 of them. I have 4 of these cameras and I love them. And I think you would find that they would serve you very, very well. Okay, next up. Let's move on here. Next up is an anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John, I think having 2 Batman sagas is a bad idea, but I will forgive them if they do one thing. Michael Keaton / Tim Burton Batman saga. It probably won't happen, but hey, crazier things have happened. What are your thoughts?" I don't know. I don't think so. And here's why I don't think so. I think the way movie audiences' taste and everything have evolved, we can look back at those original Burton Keaton Batman movies, and I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Batman Returns. I don't think it's terrible, but I am not the biggest fan of Batman Returns. To be obviously, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, please. But aside from that, I'm not a big fan of the movie. But you know, we look back at that first Batman movie and we all have but I think the taste of the audiences and everything has changed. I don't know if a Batman movie done in the Burton Keaton style would be received nearly as well today. And maybe I'm wrong about that. But my kind of feeling is that it probably wouldn't happen. That's just my thought. All right. Moses Barksdale writes, "Book it, John. Redskins beat the Buccaneers this weekend." First, it is the Washington football team. Listen, look, I've called them the Washington Redskins my whole life. So every once in a while, I still hear professional sportscasters every once in a while accidentally slip in Washington Redskins. That's not the name of the team anymore. It is the Washington football team. I hope they come up with a proper name soon. Hey, listen, that's not crazy for one reason and one reason only. Washington has a nightmare-inducing defensive front line. The defensive front line of the Washington football team is the stuff of nightmares. They are fast. They are incredibly quick off the ball. They pack hunt to the ball. They're relentless. They stop the run. They have great pass rush. I mean, they are going to cause Brady some problems. I still think Tampa Bay wins the game, but I wouldn't put $100 on it because of that defensive front line. They got something special in that defensive front line, and we'll see what happens. I would put $5 on the Buccaneers though. I wouldn't put 100, but I'd still put $5 on the Buccaneers. All right. Sergeant Ward writes, "Hey, John, don't know if you know this, but there's going to be a show about Pamela Anderson's scandal." Yeah, I heard about this. We talked about it a few weeks ago, about good Canadian girl Pamela Anderson's scandal starring Lily James and Sebastian Stan for Hulu, who would play the guy from Motley Crue. This will certainly be an interesting show. What are your thoughts? Listen, it is weird for me. First of all, you guys know I have a celeb crush on Lily James. Like, Lily James to me is like, Lily James. She is like one of the best examples of beauty, grace, and talent all mixed into one thing. She can do action and comedy and period piece. She can be on Downton Abbey, or she can be in whatever. She can be in Baby Driver. Lily James is amazing. Her playing Pamela Anderson seems like a real stretch. And Sebastian Stan playing Tommy Lee. Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't know. It seems weird. It seems really, really weird, but I will be interested in checking it out. Thanks for that, Sergeant. All right. Dr. Film writes, "Hey, John, in my opinion, if the Snyder Cut fails and if the Flashpoint movie fails, and both are horrible, Warner Brothers will have no choice but to abandon the DCEU and focus with rebooted solo movies following the Batman. If it's good, what do you think?" Honestly, no. Listen, Snyder Cut, I've said this before, I will say it again. Snyder Cut could be the best thing ever or be the most awful piece of stinky garbage ever. It will make no difference on what the DCU is doing. because, as Walter Hamada said in that New York Times article, the Snyder Cut is not their future. It is what do they describe it as? As a dead-end street. It's a cul-de-sac. It's just a one-shot thing. They're not doing all this stuff you hear about people talking this. Walter Hamada put that to bed. No, this is a one-shot thing. That's it. It could be the greatest thing in the world. It's not going to change anything. It could be the most terrible thing in the world. It's not going to change anything. So I don't think it has, because what is it? It's a one-off what if kind of thing, going back and doing a redux of a movie that already came out and all that kind of stuff. It's ultimately not going to change anything, for good or bad. So I wouldn't worry about it. Let's just look forward to watching it, and hopefully it's really good and we be entertained by it. That's all that matters. Flash, it depends. If Flash is used as a true turning point, as a true ultimate turning point of the DCEU, and it is absolutely pivotal to the future of the DCEU and all that, which I don't think it is. Some people are talking like it is. I haven't heard anybody official at Warner Brothers say that it is. But if it's treated like that and it totally sucks, it could cause problems. It could cause problems. If it is just another outing of the movie like Shazam was or whatever, if it's just another movie, if it's not good, it's not good. They'll continue to move forward. Listen, I thought if they were going to reboot the DCEU, the time to do it was years ago. The time to reboot the DCEU was years ago. If they were going to reboot it all. They went a different way, and they've had some success with this new way. They've won Oscars with Joker. They had big box office hits with Aquaman. They had one of my second favorite DCEU movie in Shazam. They've had some good wins since doing that. Just because, but we talked about this earlier, right? As soon as something goes bad, we all think everything's gone to hell. If Flash, again, Snyder Cut doesn't count, nobody cares. I mean, a lot of people care about Snyder Cut, but nobody at Warner Brothers cares about the future of DC based on a really good or a really bad Snyder Cut. It's not a player in this discussion. But if Flash is bad, I honestly don't think they reboot if Flash is bad. But oh my God, here's the other thing though. If Flash is bad and the Batman is bad, if Matt Reeves' the Batman is bad, and I have no reason to believe that it will be, I think it's going to be awesome. But if Matt Reeves' Batman is bad and the Flash movie is bad, I think Warner Brothers and AT&T, I think they're going to do a full overhaul of everything if those two go south. Because that will be a disappointment with Wonder Woman 84, a bad Batman movie, a bad Flash movie that audiences and critics and everything don't like and aren't on board with. If you go 3 in a row, that could be a total rehaul happening again at DC, and maybe they do. But honestly, I think it would have to be that bad. So I think just on its surface, even if the Flash is bad, I think they're still okay. Even if the Flash is bad. And by the way, they got a really good director. They've had like 4 directors attached to Flash, but right now they have a really good director attached to Flash. So I think there's reason to be optimistic with Flash. I think there's reason to be optimistic. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Dr. Film. Next up, Chandler writes, WandaVision theory. She's trapped in a dream being controlled by Nightmare. She thinks she's in control, but really she's in a Truman Show type situation. Sets Nightmare up for main bad in Doctor Strange 2. I mean, I've heard that theory before. Now, let's keep going on here with Chandler. The Nightmare and Strange could fight it out through different realities, trying to find the one Nightmare has hidden Wanda away in. Could also open the door to Evan Peters showing up as Nightmare, as Nightmare tries to pluck Pietro, or Peter as they call him, for the dream and gets the wrong one. They're not bringing in Evan Peters to play. They're not crossing over the old X-Men with the new one, so that one goes out. I mean, there's no reason why your theory can't happen. The one thing though is that I think you're looking at it in too narrow of a field. The connected story, remember, Spider-Man 3 is going to be connected in the story. Kevin Feige has said that Spider-Man 3, WandaVision, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is one connected story. And I think when you've got something called Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I think this thing is going to be a much wider scope of a film. I don't think we're going to get just one, rogues gallery villain comes in is going to be the one bag. I think it's going to be a much wider scope idea. So again, Chandler, no reason they couldn't do this. This is a legitimate theory, but I just think the overall scope is a little bit too narrow. I think it's just a little bit too narrow for a multi-film, for a 3-film cross-story event that culminates in something called Multiverse of Madness. I just think it's a little bit too narrow, but maybe they could start off with something like that. Who knows? We'll see. All right. Next up. John, I know everything Campion writes, hey, John and Rob, not exactly related, but I read an amazing article in Variety about new tech predictions from 1921 to 100 years later. Having seen so much in the 20th century in film, TV, what do you foresee for media in 2021? VR theaters, AI actors? Well, we can ask this question a lot. In terms of AI actors, we've had AI actors for 100 years, animation. I mean, in many ways, we have these virtual actors in animation, but straight up AI actors. No, I don't see that happening. Let me rephrase. I don't see that happening in the next 10 to 20 years. I mean, look, 100 years from now, we literally could all be in machine bodies. I mean, I just don't know. So could ever happen. But so normally when I address questions about where do I see things in the future, I usually try to limit that to the next 5 to 10 years, because anything beyond that, and you just don't know. Innovations in technology can happen so quickly and so fast that it's absolutely bonkers and nuts. Do I see AI actors become a thing? Not really. VR theaters? No, there's no point. We've had that discussion for years. I just don't see any point of a VR theater. So no, I don't see that happening. I mean, right now you can get programs on VR headsets where you can be in a virtual theater, and there can be other people with their avatars in that theater as well, but it doesn't replace a real theater experience. So I don't see that becoming a big thing. It's a novelty. It's cute. You can do that today, but it's not a big thing. It's not like that takes off. So I don't know, man, but technology is something that changes and it grows exponentially. So who knows, man? Who knows? Next up, saying finally got to see Tenet. I definitely enjoyed it. Sound was great on my home theater, but some scenes would have looked awesome on the big screen. The obvious problem is that the time bending was never explained, unlike in Memento, Inception, Interstellar. 85. I still have to watch Tenet again because I saw Tenet on the weekend it came out. I went to Orange County. It was the closest movie theater to me that it was open. I went to Orange County, watched it, and there was definitely a lot of the film that I just couldn't follow what was happening because I couldn't understand the dialogue in a number of scenes. And again, I understand there were some scenes where you're not supposed to understand the dialogue, but there were many scenes that you were supposed to understand the dialogue that I just couldn't. So I've been dying to watch it again at home with the subtitles turned on. I want to watch it again with the subtitles turned on. I liked the movie when I saw it, but I have a feeling I would have a better experience knowing all the dialogue that was actually going on in all the right places. So I need to watch it again with the subtitles on. Anyway, thanks for sharing that, man. Next up, Sergeant writes, hey, John. Hey there. Someone who doesn't get enough credit is Rob Reiner. Oh, Rob Reiner is like an all-time great. I love Rob Reiner. Is Rob Reiner. The guy made Misery, When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, Stand By Me, A Princess Bride. The guy is Spielberg level talented. I wouldn't go that far, but, and people don't even know who he is. What are your thoughts? I love Rob Reiner. And of course, his dad, I think, just passed. Didn't his dad, Carl, just pass away? Hold on a second. Carl Reiner. I think he just passed away this year in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, his dad, Carl Reiner, who was in, here's a great picture of both of them together. If I can get it on the screen here. Give me a second. He was great. I loved him, and I love Carl Reiner. I just watched, Ann and I on New Year's Eve, we decided to watch a very odd movie for New Year's Eve. We decided to watch You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And Carl Reiner is in there. He plays Tom Hanks' grandfather. But whether it's that or the Ocean's 11 movie. I've always loved Carl Reiner. And his son, Rob Reiner, who was, got his start as an actor. I think Archie Bunker, he played Meathead, remember? In Archie, I think Archie Bunker that might have been his start. I can't remember. But when you look at things like Princess Bride and things like that, he was amazing. And by the way, Rob Reiner also appeared as a recurring character on New Girl. I think he played Jess's dad in New Girl too. But yes, I do love the Reiners. Rob Reiner is great, so I'm with you on that. So thank you for giving Rob Reiner some love there, Sergeant. All right, Cody Hunt Films writes, hey, John, did you hear the story about Tanya Roberts? Yes, I did. On Sunday, her rep announced that she had passed. But during a live interview, her boyfriend received a call from the hospital saying that she was in fact still alive. Wild story. Yes. And it has an unfortunate ending. She has now officially passed away. So former actress of Charlie's Angels, that 70s show, Bond girl, Tanya Roberts. So a report came out that she had died. Turns out she hadn't died. She was in hospital, but she hadn't died. And it's always like really unfortunate when things go around about death stories of people. But anyway, then it came out that those reports were premature. She had not died. But then I read this morning that she has now officially passed away. So a sad ending to that really, really weird story. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Cody. All right, next up. Ryan Lohner writes, one of my favorite pieces of trivia. What was the very first HBO original series? It was actually Fraggle Rock. I had no idea. Is that true? Let me look this up here. Hold a second. First HBO show. Let me see if I can find something here. The very first, okay, so before HBO beamed their first live sporting event in 1917, New York Rangers Canucks. Okay, I'm not seeing anything there, but I'm going to take your word for it for now. If that's true, I had no idea that was true. Dance your cares away. Worries for another day. Anyway, let the music play down at Fraggle Rock. Anyway, I just remember as a kid thinking that the trash heap had the biggest boobs I'd ever seen in the world. Remember Trash Heap in Fraggle Rock? I remember as a little kid going, she's huge boobs. Anyway, let's move on here. That was Ryan. Next one, Sergeant writes, hey, John, what is a movie when you first watch, you thought it was bad or overrated, but you saw it again and you realized it was actually really good? Please say Pulp Fiction, my favorite. No, I always liked Pulp Fiction, but it's another Quentin Tarantino movie. You guys have heard me tell the story before. It's Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. I hated it. I hated Inglourious Bastards. The first time I saw it, I went and see it in theater. I remember I went to go see it at the ArcLight in Hollywood, and I went to watch it, and it was awful. It was awful. I thought it was terrible. So then, fast forward a few months, the movie comes out on home video, and I have a date. This is obviously before Anne. I have a date. I think it was before Anne. Anyway, maybe the date was Anne. Anyway, I had a date, and we ended up back at my place to watch a movie, and she wanted to watch Inglourious Bastards. So like, I'm all right, whatever. Like, hey, keep her happy, sure. And we watched it, and I'm like, what was I thinking? This movie is awesome. Why? Like, and then all I could think about is, did I have a bad day when I first saw it? Like, I didn't understand. And now it is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. So I knew that's one movie that does it for me. All right, next up, we've got Dr. Film writes, hey, John, what would you prefer, a watchable, mediocre movie that's comedy? You probably mean comedy. Would you rather prefer a watchable, mediocre movie that's comedy-driven or a straight-up bad movie, but its filmmaker's weird and creative vision? Choose widely. Oh, the comedy. Comedy. Yeah. I'll take, look, any kind of movie. I will take a watchable, mediocre movie over a bad movie any day of the week. If the watchable, mediocre movie is a 16th century period piece and the bad movie is a big action sci-fi, I'll take the mediocre watchable movie. Yeah, but particularly if it's comedy, because movies are meant to be experiential events. And if you've got at least a watchable comedy, that means you're going to get some laughs out of it and have a good experience. So I would go with comedy. All right, next up. Dr. Film also writes, I really think people underestimate how talented the Russos are. They came from TV and were given control over the biggest saga you could think of. Well, they were not given control. Let's not don't misunderstand. Kevin Feige at all times had very strong hands on the reins. So never misunderstand that. Anyway, underestimate how talented the Russos are. They came from TV and were given control over the biggest saga you could think of. They had to take directors' previous work from other movies and make a cohesive plot with many characters. And here's the thing. I am right now, and first of all, just so you guys know, I love the Russo brothers. All right? Make no mistake. I love the Russo brothers. I think they're fantastic. I still remember, guys, the first time I came out of the movie theater, I still remember exactly where it was. I went to the AMC Century City. The AMC Century City, that's in Los Angeles, to go see the first press screening for Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And I remember going to see that. And I remember walking out of the theater, and like me and a bunch of other people who like came out of the theater just kind of like looked at each other and was like, what did we just watch? Like, we heard them say this is going to kind of be like a 70s political thriller. And we're like, yeah, sure. Everybody says there are movies like this, but does it really turn out to be that way? And it really was. It was like this incredible 70s political thriller. And we were so impressed, like to this day, so incredibly impressed with what they were able to do and with what they were able to accomplish. It was amazing what they were able to do. And I have a deep love of the Russo brothers. There's me, Amy, and the late great John Schnepp, and the Russo brothers came down to my studio, and yeah, they have come down to my studio on a couple of occasions. I love these guys. I think they're great, and I particularly love what they were able to do in the MCU, because then they followed up Winter Soldier with Captain America: Civil War, which a lot of people, to some people, Captain America: Civil War is like the greatest comic book movie of all time. There are a lot of people who consider Civil War to be the greatest comic book movie of all time. And I don't necessarily agree, but I'm not going to have an argument with anybody who thinks that, because it's pretty damn awesome. And then, of course, they do Infinity War, and then they go on and do Endgame and all that kind of stuff. So I love them. I think they're great. But for me, I'll be honest with you. As much as I love the Russo, they're great. And by the way, as great as they are as filmmakers, they're even nicer in person. They're even nicer in person. I remember I was at the Infinity War premiere, and I had met the Russos on a couple of occasions, but I was at the Infinity War premiere, and Anthony Russo just walks up and goes, "Hey, John," and comes, shakes. I mean, it's like, the fact that he'd even remember, like, that's just the type of people the Russo brothers are, right? They're like really solid, grounded, very cool people. I just great. So I will always cheer for them. But I'm also going to be honest with you guys. For me, the jury is still out. The jury is still out a little bit on how good do I think the Russos are without Kevin Feige? To me, the jury is still out, because I was not a fan of their work prior. I mean, their big movie before, Winter Soldier was You, Me, and Dupree, which I think is terrible. Not the worst movie ever. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's a bad movie, You, Me, and Dupree. And then since the MCU, they launched their own production arm, their Agbo Productions. And they oversaw and were the producers of that Chadwick Boseman film. I think it's called 21 Bridges, 22 Bridges, whatever. The movie sucked. It was a terrible movie. And they did Extraction, which a lot of people liked Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. I honestly thought it was a mess of a movie. I thought it was a really bad movie with some really incredible action scenes. Because there's no denying the action scenes in Extraction, like really, really, really good action scenes. But overall, I thought the movie really narratively was quite a mess and quite bad. So, for me, again, I'm not looking at a couple of bad outings saying, oh, that means the Russo brothers aren't good filmmakers. No. Obviously, they made some great, great films. But I'm still my jury is still out a little bit on how good are they without Kevin Feige working with them. And I just don't know what the answer to that is yet. I'm just in a place where I don't think one thing or the other. I'm in a wait and see. So I will continue to watch them as time moves forward. With, as Palpatine would say, we'll watch your career with great interest. I'm going to continue to watching their progression. I'm going to be cheering for them the whole way. And we'll see how that all kind of turns out. Okay. By the way, somebody in the live chat was just before the show started. Somebody in the live, I had to pull this out. I had to pull this picture in because somebody in the live chat wrote in and asked, why is it that Campea looks like Jeremy Renner's brother? And I couldn't help it. So I thought I ran and grabbed this picture because I wanted to show it. So it's just funny that somebody said that in the live chat. So there's this one picture of me and Jeremy Renner together. And I said, the question is not, why do I look like Jeremy Renner? The question is, why does Jeremy Renner look like me? I mean, clearly we look like brothers, and I clearly am the better looking brother. I mean, that goes without saying. I'm not here to crap on Jeremy Renner, but obviously I am the better looking brother. That's all I'm saying. I'm clearly the better looking brother. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, right? I mean, look at this face. Look at this face. Anyway, let's continue on, shall we? Okay. Where were we at? That was just Dr. Film. Let's move on. Batman versus Deadpool writes, people are saying every studio should have their own streaming service. Yeah, some people are saying that. But why can't one of them be in the business of guaranteed theatrical releases in contrast to one who would just dump movies on streaming? After HBO Max situation, I think it's a good idea. I think the truth lies somewhere in between. A lot of people are out there today thinking the studio needs to be all about theatrical releases or you got to be all about streaming. I believe the truth lies somewhere in between, where you can do what Disney is doing. See, Disney right now, after the Disney investor call, they changed my perception. That's what we do. We change our perception when we get given new information. And Disney changed my perception a little bit about what it is they're doing after that investor call, because what they did was they painted a picture, a very healthy, balanced picture of what their future is, at least the immediate future, maybe not the long-term future, but at least the immediate future, which is we are both a very serious theatrical release company. We put movies in theaters because we make billions of dollars with those movies in theaters. And we have streaming. And guess what? Those movies we put in theaters, eventually they end up on our streaming too, and we benefit both ways. And that seems to be, but it is a good idea in this environment, Batman versus Deadpool. If you're a big studio like a Sony, it would benefit you and behoove you to have your own streaming arm. Now they own pieces, like they own Crackle and a couple of other smaller pieces, but it really would benefit them long-term to have their own, for argument's sake, let's call it Sony Plus, that they can then create their own libraries on and benefit from movies in theaters and then benefit from their movies later on to put it on a streaming service so they can make money with it in theaters and make money with it on streaming when it comes out on streaming a couple months later. It's a win-win. So yeah, I gotta say, I kind of agree with a lot of people when they think that a lot of studios should have their own streaming arm, not to become exclusive streamers, but to find that balance the way Disney is kind of creating that balance. But we'll see how that all works out as we move forward. All right, Sam Chen writes, just saw Greenland in 4K. I gotta watch that still. I want to see that. In 4K HDR with family. Never would have believed this movie would be anything but apocalyptic garbage, but I was stunned by just how good it turned out to be. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing really good things about it. It did not rely on CGI, but focused on characters, a real pleasure to behold. And you're right, because when we first saw that the first trailer for Gerard Butler's Greenland, it's a global apocalyptic movie, giant meteor heading towards Earth. We've seen that before. And that's good enough. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, but we all kind of assumed, present company included, we all kind of assumed it was going to be just dumb popcorn, big explosions movie, which is fine. That's all we were looking at of it. But everything I'm hearing is that it's actually quite a good movie. aside from the apocalyptic explosions and everything, I've heard it's really quite good. So I'm looking forward to watching it myself, man. All right. The Markham Knight, Canada. I love Markham, by the way. Canada writes, one of two. You're confused about Wonder Woman 84. I love it when people who have a different opinion than me just assume that I'm confused. They're right and I'm confused. Anyway, you're confused about Wonder Woman 84. Cheetah didn't get 2 wishes. In the third act, Max says, give her your rage and your prowess, etc. He's taking something from those wishing. So when those renounce their wishes, they regain what they lost, and Barbara loses cheetah form. The shaman said, the legend said it can only be stopped by destroying the stone itself or give back what was given. If Max renounced his wish and the stone doesn't exist, there is no calamity. People renouncing their wishes may be a bonus. Wonder Woman 84 equals 5 out of 10. Again, unfortunately, what you're saying does not stand up logically with what actually happens in the movie. It's not what happens in the movie. The movie said very explicitly that one of two, to avoid calamity, one of two things has to happen. The stone has to be destroyed, and it wasn't. We'll cover that in a second. Or they clearly, explicitly said in the movie, everyone has to renounce their wish. Everyone has to renounce their wish. You just made something up saying people renouncing their wishes was just a bonus. No. That is not what the movie showed us. The movie did not show us that everyone renouncing their wishes was just a bonus. Max Lord renouncing his wish didn't do anything. Right? There are still people out there who act like in Wonder Woman 84, when Max renounces his wish, everything went back to normal, but it didn't. The movie clearly showed and explicitly showed that Max undid his wish, nothing happens. The nukes were still in the air. The wall was still around the city. It wasn't until after Max renounced his wish that then we went to the president. And then the president says, I renounce my wish. And only when the president renounced his wish did the nukes fall out of the sky and disappear. It wasn't when Max undid his wish. It was when the president undid his. Then they went to the oil lord. Sometime now after Max had renounced his wish, the wall was still there. And it wasn't until after the oil baron said, I renounce my wish, that the wall magically disappeared. It wasn't until after that. The big problem, though, here is that all of us as film fans, you're doing what we're all doing, Markham. We're all trying to figure out, how does this make logical sense? And the problem is none of us can come up with a way that it makes logical sense because they wrote the script in a way that it doesn't make logical sense. Every theory we can come up with contradicts something that they explicitly say in the movie. And that's not our fault as viewers. It's not your job and my job to try to figure out how this makes sense. It's the movie's job to make it make logical sense. And they simply didn't do it. It's riddled with contradictions. So anyway, yeah, but I am not confused about it. I'm very clear on it. That's just the way it is. The movie leaves itself in a space where there's no way to make logical sense out of it, because every possible theory we can come up with has a contradictory point in the movie. Because that's the way they wrote it. They wrote it as a mess, unfortunately. All right, Sam Phillip writes, my most anticipated of the year, number 10, Old. Number 9, A Quiet Place 2, because we of course did our list the other day. Number 8, Fast 9. Number 7, The Suicide Squad. Number 6, Matrix 4. I just can't get excited about that. Anyway, number 5, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Number 4, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Number 3, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Number 2, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 1, Godzilla vs. Kong. Really? No Dune? No Time to Die? Really? Yeah, well, Zack Snyder's Justice League, not a movie, so we can put that aside. It's officially a mini-series, so there's that. Semantics, but there it is. I wish I could be excited. I don't even have Godzilla vs. Kong on my list. I just can't get all that excited about it after Godzilla King of the Monsters. That movie to me was a disappointment. Yeah, I wish I could get more psyched about it. And Matrix 4, again, I love that everybody's getting excited about Matrix 4. I just don't see any reason to be excited. Matrix 2, which I liked, but a lot of people didn't, but Matrix 2 and 3 declined in quality. the movies that the Wachowskis made after Matrix are some of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like Jupiter Ascending is like seriously straight up one of the top 10 worst movies ever made. It's awful. And so, not to mention now it's just one of the Wachowskis making the new one. I want to be excited about Matrix 4. Just nobody can give me a good reason why I should be excited about it. Again, after the first Matrix, which was incredible, the second one was a decline in quality. The third one, most people don't like. And then their career since then hasn't been very good. So I don't know what I'm supposed to be excited about. Now, I hope the movie comes out and it's awesome and it's better than the original one. But yeah, it's just, whoo. I just can't get excited about it. I hope it turns out to be great. All right. Philadelphia Freedom writes, "Hey, John, just wanted to apologize about my thoughts about Tom Cruise last week. You sound a little upset and I get your position. I wanted to wish you all the best for 2020. No, I don't listen. What I'm upset in the Tom Cruise situation is the morons on set who had already been warned when their multi-$100 million project that they are privileged enough to get paying gigs working on, who had already been warned, put other crew members' health, jobs, and lives at risk by breaking protocol. That's what got me upset. I don't get upset by anybody else's opinion about things. That's cool. But when I think about those guys on that set, I get worked up. I do. And I shouldn't, but I get worked up. I'm sorry. You're a guy in the film industry where most people are out of work right now, and you have a job on a big high profile movie. While there's a big pandemic going on and people's jobs, health, and lives are at risk, and they have rules on set, and your movie's already been shut down once or twice because of the pandemic, and you've already been warned for breaking the rules on set, and then you get caught by the boss breaking them again, putting the entire production at risk, putting your coworkers' lives and health and jobs at risk. Yeah, you're damn right they should get chewed out. They should absolutely. Tom Cruise, and you guys know I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan in the world, but I am 1,000% on Team Tom in that one. 1,000%. But yeah, when I get worked up, I'm not getting worked up that you had a different point of view on it. I just getting worked up thinking about those idiots putting other people's jobs at risk. That's what I get worked up about. Anyway, no apology necessary, Philadelphia Freedom. No apology necessary. And here's hoping that your Eagles can have a better season next year. Maybe with Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. Who knows? We'll see. Dark Knight Rises writes, how to go about investing in films. Work on a film crew. It's a bucket list idea of mine in the second half of life. Might be more interesting than getting old playing golf. Thanks. How do you, well, I mean, that's a monster question. If you want, listen, one of the quickest, easiest ways, if you want to kind of get involved and work on a film crew, the easiest way to do it is whatever town or you live in. And listen, the bigger the city you live in, the easier it'll be. But particularly if you live in like Toronto or New York or Los Angeles or cities like that, look up, go on Google and search for local extras talent agencies. Because what'll happen a lot of times when like a movie needs a bunch of extras, they will coordinate and work with extras talent agencies. Say we need 40 people that kind of fit these descriptions. And then the talent agencies will go to people that they have in their rosters and send them over. And unlike getting an actual talent agent, unlike getting a real acting talent agent, an extra talent agent is just a kind of adding yourself to their pool. And so when they have need for extras that need people and you kind of fit in there, they'll contact you. Hey, are you available to go and be on set from, for these couple of days? And Short72 just sent in a super chat badge. Thanks, Short72 in the live chat there. Appreciate that, man. Writing #1 fan. Thank you so much, man. Yeah. And then, so I did it because here's the thing. I got invited to be an extra on The Incredible Hulk. So I got to be an extra on Incredible Hulk, the one with Abomination in it, because they were shooting in my hometown of Hamilton and in Toronto. So it was right there. They asked me what I want to do. I kind of loved the experience. So I had been invited to be an extra on one or two sets because I was in the Toronto area and sometimes movies shoot up there. So I just called up an extra agency. Hey, I'd like to be added as an extra agency. I just did this and this, and they added me to it. And I swear, like within a few days, I was getting phone calls from the extras agency saying, do you want to go and be on this set? Do you want to be on this set? And you got paid like, I think we got paid like $15 an hour for being on set or something. But, and there it is, just like that. It ain't going to make you a star. It ain't going to make you a major player in the movie industry. But if all you want is to have some kicks and just say, hey, I was on set of a big movie, the easiest, quickest way is to sign up for an extras agency if you live in one of those big towns where they shoot a lot of movies, and just sign up. I mean, I can't make any guarantees, but I mean, it's actually the easiest way to do it, as opposed to learning a new trade, becoming a cinematographer or a gaffer or something like that. But that's the easiest way to do it. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful, Dark Knight Rises. And man, I wish I knew how to play golf. I'm actually, the house Ann and I are moving into, the house we're moving into, actually overlooks a golf course. I'll bring up this picture. This is a picture from the backyard deck. We've got a pool in the new backyard. This is the deck. This deck is now gone. Our renovator is completely rebuilding the deck, but it overlooks a golf course, and the mountains in the background. It's a beautiful view. Like we're moving outside of LA, but I've always wanted to learn how to play golf. And I've played golf a couple of times. but I'm no golfer. But I always thought, a bunch of buddies a lot of times will go, hey, let's go play golf. And everybody loves playing golf. So I thought I should try to learn to play golf. I now literally have a golf course in my backyard. So now I have no excuse not to get out there and actually learn how to play golf. So I'm going to try to do that myself. Anyway, so I can maybe then I'll learn to drink beer, because I hate alcohol, so I don't drink beer. But if I want to fit in with the cool kids, maybe I should do that. All right. Let's see. Next up, Dark Knight Rises also writes, Robert Redford wore 3 hats on The Horse Whisperer. He was star, director, and producer. I think that would be difficult doing just 2. How does he manage to wear all 3? How is it done? Well, yeah, the producer, take that one out of it, because there can be up to like 15 people who have a producer title and credit on a movie that maybe don't even really do anything. Sometimes you get a producer credit just because you agree to be attached to the film. Sometimes you get a producer credit because you made a phone call to get a particular actor to come and be in, and you get a producer. So don't worry about that one. Like maybe Robert Redford worked very hard. Maybe he was the main producer of it. I don't know, but don't worry about that one. The acting and being in the movie at the same time. That's the one that's always amazed me. Clint Eastwood makes it look easy. Like how Eastwood does it and makes it look so easy, I have no idea. Ben Affleck, has also done a pretty good job of that. And we've seen several, like Carl Weathers just did it for Mandalorian. His episode of Mandalorian season 2, he directed and he also starred in front of the camera. I have no idea who did, because listen, I've directed before. I'm not a director, but I have directed. And I have no idea how you can possibly direct something and be in it at the same time. I mean, that is something that astounds me when they're able to do that. And a fan of Peanuts sends in a super chat badge. Thanks, fan of Peanuts. Appreciate that, man. I have no idea how they pull it off. I have no idea how they do it. It is like amazing to me. It is absolutely amazing to me. It is absolutely incredible that they're able to pull stuff like that off, especially when you consider all that is actually involved in making a movie and all that's involved in actually directing. When you actually have an appreciation for all that's involved and everything that's involved in directing, and you understand how laser focused in you need to be an actor and being in front of the camera and to play out your role, and then trying to figure out how you're going to do both of them at the same time. That to me is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Okay. Anyway, next up. We've got another one from Dark Knight Rises who writes, got a question about Lethal Weapon 5. Richard Donner is 90. Danny Glover is 74. Mel Gibson is 64. I hear rumors being dangled out, and it might be fun to see the old gang back, but I don't see what you'd write about. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, here's the thing. Just because the character, listen, there's just all new stories you can tell. Just because somebody hits 65 years old, that doesn't mean, oh, now there's nothing to them. No, now you just tell different kinds of stories. Now, listen, to be clear, I am dubious that they're actually going to make Lethal Weapon 5. I don't actually think it'll happen. I know they're trying to get it to happen. I know that group wants to make it, but I am dubious that it will actually happen. I just don't think they can. I just don't know that there's the interest. I don't think a studio will actually come along and say, we're willing to put up $60 million to make this happen. I just don't see it happening. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. But listen, if Stallone can make Expendables movies at the age that he made Expendables movies, why not? But again, then you just have to tell different kinds of stories. Everybody has stories to tell. I don't care if you're 12 or 20 or 40 or 70 or whatever. Everybody has stories to tell. And everybody can fit into a great, maybe you can't make the same kind of Lethal Weapon today that you made back in the day. Maybe you can't make the same kind of Lethal Weapon, but there are different stories to tell. But again, like I said, I am dubious that that any studio would really be interested right now. We'll find out. B. Wayne, New York writes, John, in Wonder Woman 1984, it seems like Diana doesn't want to be known as Wonder Woman yet. You can clearly see a gold Wonder Woman WW on her chest, armor belt. Towards the end of Wonder Woman 84, a black DC cop called her Wonder Woman by name. Also, Lex had a Wonder Woman logo on her file in Batman vs. Superman Thoughts. Hey, listen, like I said before, there's not really a lot of point in us discussing the contradictions that are in Wonder Woman 84 compared to the rest of the movies that Wonder Woman has been in. There are so many contradictions. And yeah, it is funny that's like, she says in Batman vs. Superman, I've spent 100 years hiding away from the rest of the world. It's like, really? Really? Well, in Wonder Woman 84, we have you literally running around in a mall, a tall, hot supermodel girl showing a lot of skin and a lot of leg. And what clothes you are wearing are shiny gold and shiny blue. And you've got this glow in the dark lasso that's going around. And oh, good, you used your tiara to take out the cameras, but the cameras have already shot their footage. They're already there. And all these people saw you, but you're trying to be in the shadows. You're trying to keep it quiet. And again, listen, it's not the biggest deal in the world. It's not a big deal, but it is, once again, it is a contradiction. It's a major contradiction what they did in the other films. And you know what? That's fine. It's totally okay. But you're right, B. Wayne, it doesn't make a lot of sense. All right. Garden Variety Vagabond writes, one of two. Hey, John. You had mentioned that you thought that another Harry Potter was a real possibility. I wouldn't put it past J.K. Rowling to go for the money grab, but not any of the actors. Rupert Grint not only retired from acting, but Rupert Grint has emphatically said he has retired from acting and never wants to sniff acting again. They are now quite wealthy, 100 million-ish, and Radcliffe and Watson have each said in interviews that they just want to do projects that interest them. Doesn't matter. I'm just telling you right now, it never matters. George Lucas said there was never going to, after Last Crusade, George Lucas emphatically said there was never going to be another Indiana Jones movie. And yet we got Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It happens all the time. It does not matter. Like, that's great that Emma Watson's saying, now I want to do these types of projects. And Daniel Radcliffe saying, I want to do these types of projects. That's all good. That's all well and good, but everybody changes their tune. Everybody. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you there will be another Harry Potter, but I am telling you the chances are pretty good. You know, at some point, Daniel Radcliffe, you know, it's like when Stallone at one point in his career, decades ago, said he was never doing another Rocky movie. Guess what? He did another Rocky movie. Vin Diesel said at one point he was done. He wasn't doing more Fast and the Furious after the Fast. Guess what? Vin Diesel came back to do more Fast and the Furious. It just, at some point, actors are like regular human beings. We all say, yeah, we're done with that. But then we start to miss that. And it was like, remember when like we were beloved worldwide and everybody loved us and what we were doing? And remember when, you know, Warner Brothers used to back up big dump trucks filled with German gold and dumped big piles of gold on our front lawns. Those were good times. And then all of a sudden, JK gets on the phone with him and said, hey, I got this idea. And by the way, if anybody doesn't need the money, it's J.K. Rowling. She wouldn't do it for a cash grab because she's, I think, other than the queen, I think she's like the richest woman in the world, but whatever. But I am telling you, maybe not this month, maybe not this year, but at some point, these performers are like, it would be a really big, guaranteed, huge spotlight, guaranteed big hit, another Harry Potter movie. So that's great. All these actors can say whatever they want right now. They can all say whatever they want right now. And I believe they're being honest when they say it. But guess what? You call Rupert Grint and you say, hey, because apparently the three of them, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, apparently they have a really good relationship. Apparently the three of them, like not only on camera, but apparently off camera, they're all pretty tight, apparently, from what I understand. Say, hey, you want to get the gang back together? Easy $10 million for each of us. You want to get have everybody love us again and maybe just, I don't know. I just do not think it's unlikely. Am I able to guarantee it? No. Do I think it will absolutely happen? No. But do I think there's a pretty good chance it happens? I do, Garden. I do. It doesn't matter what they say. I do think there's a pretty good chance. All right. Anyway, next up, Dark Knight Rises writes, what's the typical diet for working actors? It's the beginning of the year. Actors need to keep slim and look healthy. The camera puts on extra weight. So maybe there's something to be learned from their lifestyle. Thanks. I have no idea. I don't know. Clearly, I have the actor's physique. I mean, a lot of people, when they see Ryan Reynolds shirtless and they see me shirtless, it's hard to tell the difference. It's very difficult to tell the difference. Like when in that scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when Brad Pitt's on top of the roof and he takes his shirt off and he's all ripped. My wife goes, oh my gosh, Sean, for a second, I thought that was you in the movie. Couldn't tell the difference. Clearly, I'm the expert on what actors, these ripped, amazing actors, diet and look like. No, I have no idea. But I mean, I assume it's the basic thing, right? Just like everybody always says, lots of vegetables, reduce your amount of carbohydrates, increase your amount of proteins, count your calories, and exercise. I mean, maybe different variations and different formulas like that, but not being an actor myself, although you'd be shocked to hear that when you look at me, not being an actor myself, I couldn't possibly tell you what the actor's general diet. I know they go into insane workout mode. Now, and not all actors are like Hugh Jackman that goes on like 3 pounds of chicken breast and 3 hours of workouts every day to get into Logan shape. They're not all like that, but, that. Actually, what's funny? Kumail Nanjiani, if you go up and look up on YouTube, here's a good one for you. If you're interested, Kumail Nanjiani, who just got himself in ridiculously ripped shape for the Eternals. Like, you go back and watch Kumail Nanjiani in The Big Sick, one of my favorite films of the last number of years, by the way. But if you go back and watch him in The Big Sick and now look at pictures of him, oh my God. But he's got some YouTube videos up about his diet and his workout schedule. If you're interested in that, I would suggest go look that up. Interesting question. All right, next up. Chicagoland writes, Mel Gibson just turned 65. I wish I wanted to send a shout out I just wanted to send him a shout out and wish him a happy birthday. Speaking of guys who look incredibly ripped, let me see this. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find this, this picture. Cause I remember, this was just a couple years ago. I think it was when he was getting ready to play a villain in, I can't remember if it was Expendables that he was getting ready to play. This is just a couple years ago. It's not yesterday, but it was just a couple years ago. I think he was getting ready to play the villain in Expendables or something. And this is Mel Gibson going into a gym. Like, hey, listen, everybody has a lot of opinions about Mel Gibson, no doubt. And I'm not here to debate any of them. I'm just saying, you want to talk about a guy who in his older age somehow manages to keep himself in incredible camera-worthy shape. I mean, that's a good example of that. All right, next up. In 65, Murray Reich writes, do you think by March we will have theaters back in full swing again with 2 to 3 movies per week, especially the ones that were supposed to come out this past year? Because I miss going to the movies on a weekly basis, but there hasn't been anything good in the past weeks. It's hard to say. Listen, the one of the things that we have learned with this pandemic is that it's hard to know where we're going to be 2 weeks from now, let alone 3 months from now. Right? It's difficult to know. A lot of it will depend on, like, I'm hearing a lot of the experts saying, oh, we're going to have things starting to get back to normal by spring. Okay, that's great. But a lot of it will have to do probably on, do these governments get their asses in gear and actually stop acting like Keystone Cops and actually get the proper, the acquisition of vaccines and then properly start distributing the vaccines. Once that starts to happen, we could see things turn around pretty quick. Will that turnaround happen by March? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Again, we could be in a massively different situation 2 weeks from now, for better or for worse. I mean, we just don't know. That's how fast things change. So I wouldn't put money on March, maybe April, maybe May. But again, there's so many other things to consider about this. I mean, listen, the reality though is if everybody had just not acted like selfish assholes, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. Just saying. I mean, you look at some countries like New Zealand, stuff like that have 0 cases, because some countries handled this right and some did not. Just saying. All right, next up. And I miss them too, Murray. I desperately miss them too. Murray Reich also writes, especially the movie theater going experience is what makes all that crap stuff going on out there on a daily basis. It distracts me from the outside world. I especially love A-list and the Dolby recliner rooms, putting straws in popcorn, etc. Bring it on. Oh, dude, listen to me. Obviously there are much worse things that have happened in the world as a result of the coronavirus, other than what's happened to movies. But on this show, that's what we're here to talk about. We talk about the movies. And in that frame, within that framework, dude, that is the thing I miss most. I miss 3 times a week going down to the movie theaters and having that experience and getting together with friends and going to the movies and hanging out and being in a room with a bunch of strangers too, oohing and awing and cheering and whatever, and a collective viewing, like a collective community watching experience. I just miss so much of it. I cannot wait to get that back, Murray. I cannot wait to get it back. All right, Murray also writes, who are you rooting for in the NFL playoffs? Who do you think will be in the Super Bowl? Which team is Ann rooting for? Yeah, Ann is rooting for the Rams. Ann is in a big LA. I mean, she roots for the Dodgers. She roots for the Lakers, especially the Lakers. But her and her dad bonded over their love of the Lakers and the Rams. Like when the Rams and the Patriots were in the Super Bowl the other year, like Ann and I put up pictures of us like looking at each other, me, because I had all my Patriots gear on and she had all of her Rams. She's clearly cheering for the Rams. I don't see anybody beating Kansas City. I'll be honest with you right now. I think it looks pretty good to be a Kansas City Green Bay Super Bowl. John, you just picked the 2 number 1 seeds. That's a pretty easy get. I know. But honestly, I don't really see anybody in the NFC beating Green Bay. And I certainly don't see anybody in the AFC. I can see Buffalo if Buffalo is on their absolute A game, I can see them giving the Chiefs a bit of a run for their money. But I'm foreseeing a Green Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl, and Kansas City wins their 2nd Super Bowl in a row. That's what I see happening. Although, while I said at the beginning of the year there is no way that the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers are going to the Super Bowl, especially the way they've looked the last couple of weeks as they've really been finding their stride, I would not bet $1,000 against the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers getting to the Super Bowl. I mean, again, I still think it's going to be a Green Bay Chiefs Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens. All right, next up. Where are we at here? We are at John's favorite bidet. I was telling the story the other day about how Anne desperately wants a bidet, and we're getting that in the new house. John's favorite bidet writes, why do you think some fans just can't fathom opposite opinions, insecurity, arrogance, a need/want for validation? It's more of that. I just don't get it. And the true fans thing, like Star Wars, oof. They want to live in an echo chamber, both scares and fascinates me. No, it's true. Listen, here's the big thing about film fans. I've talked about this before. This is the big thing about film fans. When people don't understand the basic thing about the subjectivity of film, when people don't understand the basic foundational truth of the subjectivity of film, a fundamental understanding that all of us will watch a movie and we'll all have unique experiences with it. None of us are right or wrong to like or dislike a movie. The art hits us in different ways. When you are somebody who's a film fan that doesn't get that, things get touchy and things get dangerous. And here's where it really happens. We as human beings, we're a really weird species. But we as human beings, we develop an opinion about a movie, right? We either love it, we hate it. Let's say Lethal Weapon 1, just for a random pulling a name out of my ass kind of example, Lethal Weapon 1. So we take Lethal Weapon 1, and let's say you love Lethal Weapon 1. Okay. What a lot of people do, and I think everybody's been guilty of this at one point or another, what a lot of people do is they get so invested in their opinion that their opinion becomes a part of their self-identification and their self-value. I am somebody who loves Lethal Weapon. The dangerous thing about that is then when we hear somebody say, I hate Lethal Weapon, what that person actually hears is, you are disrespecting me. You're attacking me because I'm somebody who loves Lethal Weapon. Therefore, if you say you hate Lethal Weapon, you're saying you hate a part of me. You hate a part of me. You're invalidating a part of my existence by saying you don't like. Now, you may think that sounds ridiculous, but that is exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens in the heads of a lot of people. And so maybe they don't identify it, maybe they don't recognize it, but it's true. You're attacking that movie there. And since I love that movie, you are attacking my validation. You are attacking me when that's not what we're doing. It's like, no, we're talking about a movie. We're talking easy there, buddy. We're talking about a movie, but that's what happens. That's what happens. Or the opposite. I hate that movie. Let's pull another movie. Let's say, I don't know, Runaway Bride, the Julia Roberts film. Let's just take that random movie, pulling out of my ass again. But let's say you hate Runaway Bride. And you and your buddies hate Runaway Bride. It doesn't Runaway Bride suck. Yeah, Runaway Bride sucks. And then you see somebody come along who the movie hits somebody else differently. Actually, we love Runaway Bride. Well, you're attacking me then. By saying you love it, you're invalidating me since I don't like it. So now, since I feel like you're invalidating me, I need to attack you. I need to discredit you. And we see this all the time. We see this all the time from everywhere, from all film fans. Happens all the time. There's no one group that we can point our finger at and say, this is only them and this is only them. This is like a big problem in all of film fandom. And we're all part of the problem. But so once we feel like we're being invalidated because somebody likes or dislikes a movie we like or dislike, now not only do we feel like we've been invalidated and attacked, even though we never were attacked and we weren't invalidated, now we feel like we need to attack and discredit the person saying something. So what happens? A Marvel fan loves Captain America Civil War. Then they hear somebody say, I think Captain America Civil War sucks. Now that person who loves Captain America Civil War feels attacked, even though they weren't being attacked. Now they feel like their value of existence has just been belittled, even though that's not what actually happened, but that's how they feel. So now, in order for them to regain their validity, their justification for being, They need to attack the person that said that. They need to discredit the opinion of the other person who said that. So like, you just like crappy movies. It's like, what the hell? I just told you I didn't like a particular movie. You get all pissed off and mad, and now you're shooting at me that all movies are, but that's what we do, right? You've seen this play out in chat forums and in person a million times. You've all seen it a million times. You don't like a movie I like? You just have bad taste. What? You like a movie that I think sucks? You're just biased. Or a popular one online. You like a movie we don't like? You're a shill. You must be getting paid by that, because they can't handle hearing somebody else like something that they don't like, because they take it personally. And again, there's no one group of people we can point at. This is a lot of us, man. This is a lot of us. There are many things about film fandom that we have some nasty habits in film fandom. We got to recognize we all do it. The key is we've got to recognize when we're doing it and stop doing it. One of the big things I keep saying is it's irritating when we hear people make excuses for other people's opinions. It's like, oh, you didn't like a movie I like? Well, you just didn't get it. No. You just made an excuse. They got it. They understood the movie. They just came to a different conclusion than you, and that's perfectly fine. Right? That's why, like, I hate the prequels, right? I hate the prequels. But guess what? I love that other people like them. Not many other people, but seriously, I love that there are people out there who love those films. I think that's great. I personally hate them, and that's okay. But I love that there are other people who like them. And I never want to try, yuck on anybody's yum or try to take somebody else's love away from them. So anyway, yeah, it's a crazy thing. It's a toxic thing in fandom, but we also all got to recognize it's a part of all fandom, and we all have to be aware of it, and especially in ourselves. And anyways, there's just that. Let's see. Thanos writes, oh gosh, we've gone overtime. You know what? Let's keep going anyway. Thanos writes, I feel like a lot of people don't give Josh Brolin a lot of credit for his Thanos portrayal because he was mostly a CGI character. I thought he was phenomenal and would not have been the same if he was played by someone else. What do you think? Well, I mean, listen, no, Brolin was great. And I think I hear Brolin getting a lot of credit. I think Brolin gets a lot of credit. And so he should. He did do a great job. I mean, he was actually the performer on set and he did a wonderful job. But again, that doesn't mean that another actor couldn't have done it. Maybe even better. Maybe not quite as good, maybe just as good, maybe even better. We can't lose sight of that either, right? That could also be the case. But yeah, I think Brolin, he brought so much personality to it. And that is a credit. We were talking about the Russo brothers earlier. That's also a credit to the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers knowing how to bring the right performance out of their performer in that moment. And that teamwork between them as directors and Brolin as the performer, it was wonderful. And it's definitely one of the big highlights of those movies. Absolutely, Thanos. All right, next up, Yaz writes, sorry, John. If I steal your car and crash it into a pole, it still does and always did belong to you. I demand justice for Scarf Guy. We need a spin-off movie showing what happened to him before, during, and after the terrible tragedy, horrible writing. Again, listen, I hate, you know what I hate? I hate being put in a position where I have to defend a movie that I don't like. I hate having to defend a movie I don't like, but I will do that here. The Wonder Woman 84 situation with Scarf Guy. This is, I honestly, listen, winning cures everything, but losing brings up problems. If everybody loved Wonder Woman 84, nobody would talk about Diana had sex with Steve when he was in another guy's body. Oh, nobody would be talking about that if Wonder Woman 84 was a great movie. You want proof of that? Everybody loves Tom Hanks's Big. Nobody talks about the fact that the woman in Big committed statutory rape by having sex with a 12-year-old child who just happened to be in a grown man's body. Nobody talks about that because the movie's great. But let me defend Wonder Woman 84 here. First of all, we need to recognize one very big important thing. This was a made-up movie in a situation that has never happened in human history. Let's be clear about that. right? What happened in Wonder Woman 84 has never happened in the history of humankind, nor will it ever. Another person did not magically, has never in the history of, we are talking about a completely fictitious situation where Steve Trevor, a World War I fighter pilot, was wished back into existence and came into possession of another dude's body who happened to be in love with a Greek demigod who has the power of the gods, and the two of them reconnected and had sex together. That has never happened in the history of the world, nor will it ever happen. So let's all get on the same page and agree that this is a situation that is completely fictional, has never happened, and never will. Okay? Can we all agree about that? Good. It was terrible writing in the sense that why did Steve have to come back in another guy's body in the first place? A wall magically appeared. Nukes magically appeared. Why couldn't Steve Trevor just manifest in a new body? That was one of the dumbest things they did in Wonder Woman 84, is to have Steve come back. He had to inhabit somebody else's body. How did that make any sense? Made no sense. But let's go with it for a second. Did Steve and Diana do something unspeakably awful in this completely fictitious, never has happened, never will happen situation? Did Steve and Diana do something awful when they had sex together, considering Steve was in another guy's body and his body was having sex with one of the world's hottest supermodels? It was having sex without his consent. Here's how I look at it. And this is the way I looked at it from the very beginning. The moment Diana made her wish and Steve came in, that body no longer belonged to Scarf Guy. Scarf Guy was just gone. It wasn't a temporary situation. That body now belonged to Steve Trevor. That body was now Steve Trevor's, period, and was going to stay that way until the day Steve Trevor died, unless Wonder Woman renounced her wish. At that point, it's his body. It sucks for Scarf Guy that he just suddenly lost his life, the life he had with that apartment and those clothes and whatever people he knew and his family. He lost it. It was gone. It sucks for him. Again, bad writing in the movie. But at that moment, the body was Steve Trevor's. So if Steve Trevor feels hungry, he's allowed to go and eat food. If Steve Trevor starts to feel stinky, he can take the body into a shower and shower the body. If Steve Trevor feels gassy, he can rip out a fart if he wants to, because now it's his body. That's the way it was. So that's why I see no controversy there. I see no controversy. But again, because the movie was bad, we continue to make up other problems. But to me, there's no controversy because that wasn't the other guy's body. It's not like Steve Trevor was temporarily visiting and renting the guy's body. It was now Steve Trevor's body. But again, we are talking about 1,000% completely fictitious, has never happened in the history of the world, and never will happen in the history of the world. It's a total make-believe story that some people are getting worked up over. Anyway, there's that. Okay, justice for Scarf Guy though. But still, the Scarf Guy got a bum deal. What did Scarf Guy do? Scarf Guy is just living his life. He never made a wish on any dream stone. He didn't invite any consequences. Just all of a sudden, because of somebody else's wish, he just lost his life. Scarf Guy got a bum deal. However, at the end of the day, he got to have a nice Christmas out with his scarf and have a super hot Greek goddess flirt with him at the end of the movie. Maybe that's payment enough. I don't know. All right, McKeel writes, I know everyone wants John Krasinski and Emily Blunt to be in Fantastic Four, but whoever they cast, I'm just happy that we're getting the movie. I will say I'd like to see Sam Witwer as Doom, but any good actor will make me happy. Well, yeah, look, Sam Witwer, you put Sam in anything, he's great. Sam Witwer's just great. You even put him in an ass-awful TV show like Supergirl, and he makes it watchable. Seriously, I hated that show. I wanted to like it, but I thought it was terrible. But I watched it just because Sam Witwer's in it. And oh my God, when Sam Witwer's in it, it's actually watchable. That's how good Sam Witwer is. So you put him in anything, I'll give it a shot. All right, next up, Wakanda Forever writes, "Hey John, we need more giant googly eye thumbnails and over-the-top trailer reactions. That hair, John, bring back the green elf hat. New year, new you, LOL. PS, is Baby Yoda the cutest Star Wars character of all time? Have a great one, Wakanda Forever." Yeah, listen, all due respect to the Ewoks, because you know me, I love the Ewoks. The Ewoks are tremendously undervalued characters. They will hunt you down, burn you alive over open fire, sear your flesh as you scream out into the Endorian night. And then once you finally mercifully die over that fire, they consume and eat your flesh, then sever your head and use your head as a victory instrument, banging into the sounds of the night. The Ewoks are vicious, man. Anyway, but no, I believe, yes, Baby Yoda is the guy. He is the cutest. I think probably the cutest Star Wars character ever. All right, next up. Hey John, as a big fan of the other guys, would it be to see a Captain Jean spinoff with Keaton, captain of the Force, during the weekend and manager of your local Bed Bath & Beyond? Stop crying while rolling out the promotions. I can't remember which actor played which role, like which one was Wahlberg, which one was saying. Let me go and pull it up here. Hold a second. The other guys, which one was Farrell and which one was Wahlberg? Okay, here we go. So, and the other guys, Farrell was Gamble. Oh, you're talking about... wait a second. Big fan of the other guys who would be with Keaton. Which one was Keaton? Oh, you're talking about Michael Keaton. You're talking about I thought we were talking about character names. Yes. Okay. So playing Captain Jean. Yes. Playing that. You know what's funny? Whenever anybody, by the way, I'm not actually a big fan of the other guys. Other than the first 10 minutes, I don't actually think Other Guys is all that great. Although the whole gag with Eva Mendes and Will Ferrell, that's pretty funny. I'm actually not a big fan of the Other Guys. But whenever people normally talk about the Other Guys and a possible another Other Guys movies, usually what happens is most people are talking about wanting to see a prequel of Samuel L. Jackson and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's characters. That's what people, usually I find, maybe you don't, but I find when people talk about wanting another Other Guys movie, that's what they're usually talking about. They want to see that one. They want to see a prequel or maybe a sequel that somehow they survived the events of Other Guys, and they want to see a Samuel Jackson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson team up cop thing again. And I'd be down for that. Why not? I'd totally be down for that. Okay, let's see. Next up, Edward Wells writes, "To hell with the world. I'm not giving up my wish to spend a night with Scarlett Johansson." Another big problem with the whole Wonder Woman 84 thing. There are just too many people that would not undo their wish. Blind kid wishes to see again. You think that kid's taking back his wish? I don't think so. Parent of a terminally ill child. You think they're going to take back their wish that their kid's illness go away? I don't think so. I think they'd rather just let the nukes fall and take their chances. But again, more problems with the thing. And Edward giving up his wish to spend a night with Scarlett Johansson, he's probably not taking that back. All right, K Major writes, "Thanks, John, for reading my long reimagining of the ending of Wonder Woman 84. I like your point of everyone resenting Diana, but at the same time, how many people are truly aware of her presence in the world? Her talking to the world through Lord may have revealed her." Yeah, again, it just creates such big problems, right? It just creates some big problems. And that at the end of the day, that at the end of the day is fundamentally what the big problem with Wonder Woman 84 is the fact that it created so many logic problems that it leaves it up to the audience to try to manifest and come up with some explanations for the logic problems in the movie, but no possible solution we as fans can come up don't adversely contradict other things stated in the movie. And it just becomes this vicious circle. right? Something doesn't make sense in the movie. We try to come up with an explanation, but our explanation contradicts something else that's in the movie, and the whole cycle repeats. And that's a sign of a bad script, of a script that just didn't have a lot of thought put into it. Now, I'm sure they did put a lot of thought into it. I'm just saying the results kind of make it look like they didn't put a lot of thought into it. But again, I think they'll learn their lesson, and we'll have the greatest Wonder Woman movie ever when they do Wonder Woman 3. I think they'll learn lessons from this one, and we'll have the best Wonder Woman movie yet in Wonder Woman 3. That's what I choose to believe right now. All right, Loki is my favorite, writes. One of two. Hi, guys. In Memoriam is my favorite part of the Oscars. It is truly a special part of the Oscars. Do you believe being on the list should be because of the quality and importance of what you brought to the industry, or just anyone who worked in a movie? With that in mind, do you believe the following will make the list when their time comes? Harvey Weinstein? No, they won't put Harvey Weinstein's name up. Roman Polanski? That's a good question. They shouldn't. I'll tell you right now, Roman Polanski should not be honored. But there's enough people in Hollywood. There's a lot of people in Hollywood who strongly feel he shouldn't be honored. There are some people in Hollywood who think he got a bad deal. I don't know. Woody Allen, I think they will do Woody Allen. Kevin Spacey, nope, they won't do it for Kevin Spacey. Mel Gibson, I think they will for Mel Gibson. Whether they should or shouldn't is a different debate, but I think they will. Remember Lenny Riefenstahl was included when she died. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I can tell you there's a couple of those really good questions. What will they do with Woody Allen? What would they do with Mel Gibson? And remember, you're asking me what do I think they will do, not what I think they should do. What I think they should do and what they will do are two completely different topics. What they will do, no, Harvey Weinstein, there's no way they do Harvey Weinstein. Not at all. Kevin Spacey, no chance. Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, Mel Gibson, coin toss. Again, I'm not talking about whether they should or shouldn't. I'm talking about whether I think they will. And those ones I think they won't. And then those other ones I think coin toss. That's a deep thought question for a Tuesday afternoon, man. That is a deep thought question for a Tuesday afternoon. Good question though, man. All right. Only troopers are so precise, writes. Yes, per yesterday's question, with regards to 25-1 Imperial to Rebel kill ratio, was military only, pilot versus pilot, soldier versus soldier, no Alderaan, Lasat or other planetary level destruction. Yeah, so what happened was only troopers are so precise wrote in yesterday and talked about death numbers of deaths in the various Star Wars movies. And I'm like, somebody mentioned Empire was like the highest. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't say that death total was higher than the original Star Wars A New Hope. The Death Star alone blowing up was hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. And then Alderaan getting destroyed was billions of people, right? So only troopers are so precise, now clarifying what it meant. Thank you for the clarification on that, man. All right, Delayed Straw writes, I'm looking forward to the High Republic. I am too. I am very curious to see what they do with that. My favorite part of the Star Wars lore was always Knights of the Old Republic / Mandalorian Wars 4,000 years before the films. Besides Rogue One and Solo, Star Wars under Disney for me has been lacking something. Well, I mean, I actually think, look, has Star Wars under Disney put out anything that's as good as the original trilogy? No. Has Star Wars put out anything that's as bad as the prequel trilogy? Also no. Although Rise of Skywalker does give it a run for its money. Rise of Skywalker does give it a run for its money. I may be convinced to rank Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, which is the final of the prequel trilogy. I might be convinced at some point to maybe rank that higher than Rise of Skywalker. As of right now, I'd still say Rise of Skywalker is better than Revenge of the Sith, but I'm close on that. I'm close. But basically, yeah, Disney's had mostly success. I mean, listen, I absolutely loved The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens is fantastic. Still the highest US box office gross film of all time. Not Avengers Endgame, Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I think it's fantastic. Rogue One, absolutely incredible. I really enjoyed Solo. Then, The Last Jedi, I like. There are things about The Last Jedi that I completely love. There are things about The Last Jedi that I really dislike. But then The Rise of Skywalker. However, now you also can't discount the fact that Mandalorian is a Disney Star Wars production. Mandalorian is a Disney thing. The final season of Clone Wars was Kathleen Kennedy greenlighting that. I mean, so you got to take all that into consideration too. But I believe, like you do, I believe it is time to go really far into the future, which it looks like Rogue Squadron is going to do. It's going to jump forward. Rogue Squadron is going to happen years after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. Or go far into the past. High Republic's a good start, but I still believe at some point we're going to get into the Old Republic era. So many things you can do with that. You don't even have to follow any of the pre-existing stories. Just going to that era of the Old Republic gives you a vast new playground of storytelling. And I do believe they're going to go there maybe sooner rather than later. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Delayed Straw also writes, what are some literacy works you love? You mean literary works? What are some literary works you love that have made poor adaptations? For me, Game of Thrones and The Witcher shows are just abysmal. Really? Oh, they're awesome. What? Okay, hey, it's all subjective, man. It's all subjective. They didn't work for you. They didn't work for you. And while The Lord of the Rings are fantastic films on their own, compared with the books, they are pretty bad for me anyway. Oh, yeah, listen. I'm not the guy you want to have a conversation with. Lord of the Rings is a extremely fantastic adaptation to me. Game of Thrones is fantastic. And I know all the cool kids like to hate on like the last. I thought the last season was great. The last season broke all the Emmy winning records too. Anyway, last season of Game of Thrones is fantastic. I don't care what anybody else says. Last season, and I'm not even the biggest Game of Thrones fan. Last season of Game of Thrones was fantastic. My only problem with it was too short. It was too short. And The Witcher is incredible. I love The Witcher. So, yeah, man. I mean, but hey, once again, that's the beauty of the art, man. The beauty of the art is the pure subjectivity of it. The fact that you and I each looked at two different pieces of art, or you and I each looked at the same pieces of art, and we had different experiences. That's something to be celebrated. You know, you didn't like them? Cool. I did. Great. It's that subjectivity that is the ultimate strength of the art. And something that I value and love very, very much. And I'm sorry you didn't like those ones as much as I did, but I'm not going to lie to you, man. I love The Lord of the Rings. I love The Witcher. I love Game of Thrones. So that's just me. All right, next. Oh, but what is a literary work that didn't work for you? I'll tell you what. I didn't like the other ones, but I liked the Da Vinci Code novel by Brown. I liked the Da Vinci Code novel. I thought the movie adaptation with Hanks was poorly done. I didn't think it worked. So there's one for me. All right, let's see here. Delayed Straw also writes, and John, like you, I'm not afraid to say unpopular things. So here it goes. Endgame and Black Panther are terrible. And Man of Steel is great. Just got my set of hot toys of Superman, Zod, and Jor-El. I'd love to have the Zod one. I've got the Jor-El hot toy up here on my shelf that you can't see. And listen, I ultimately, at the end of the day, I really love Endgame. But I don't think it's one of the best MCU movies. I love Black Panther. Do I think Black Panther should have been nominated for Best Picture? Honestly, no. I think it was great. I loved it. But I thought there were two better comic book films that year. I thought in the same year Black Panther came out, I thought in which year? Was it Endgame or Infinity War that came out? Let's go with Infinity War. I think it was Infinity War. What year did Infinity War come out? Help me out, guys. Infinity War, 2018. I think Black Panther was also, yeah. So the year that that Black Panther came out, it wasn't even the best comic book movie of the year. I don't even think it was the second best comic book movie of the year. If one comic book movie that year should have been nominated for Best Picture, while I loved all three of those films, it shouldn't have been T'Challa that got the Best Picture nomination. It should have been Miles Morales. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, to me, was the best comic book movie that year and one of the best overall films of the year. I honestly think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should not only, it won the Academy Award for Best Animated Film, but it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I think it's that good. I really do think it's that good. So I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best comic book movie that year. I think Infinity War was the second best comic book movie of the year. And then I think Black Panther was the third best comic book movie of the year. All three were fantastic. I love all of them. They're all great. And I have no complaints that Black Panther got a Best Picture nomination. But if you're going to ask me my opinion, I don't think it deserved the Best Picture nomination. I think that belonged to one of two other comic book films. And really, I thought it belonged to, that spot should have gone to Into the Spider-Verse. But that's just me, which is funny because I crapped all over Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse before it came out. I'm like, I don't like this idea. I think it's a dumb idea. I didn't like the trailers. I didn't like the animation style. And then I saw the movie and I'm like, this is one of my favorite movies ever. I just love the movie so much. Caught me so by surprise. All right. Let's keep going here. What's up next? Tony Rodriguez writes, tech question. Okay, here we go. So once you finish a live stream or upload, does YouTube place a bunch of ads in your video and you over or under, plus or minus, or rearrange ads? Or do you add the ads after it's published? Can't stand an ad every 10 minutes in a 2-hour video. How much is per ad? Oh, I don't know. YouTube puts them in. I don't do it myself. I don't even know if I have that option. I honestly don't know if I have the option. But anyway, yeah, once the live stream is done, YouTube, this has always happened. YouTube puts in the ads during the show. I don't do it myself, so I don't know if I have any control over that or not, but YouTube puts the ads in, just so you know. And how much is it per ad? Oh, I have no idea. It's not much. I'll tell you, here's something that strikes people as always surprises people. When a video gets like 1 million views, which I only think I've made, I'm talking about going all the way back to movie blog days, AMC, Collider, today. 1 million view videos. A video's got 1 million views. A lot of people think, my God, you probably get like what? $15,000, $20,000 for a video. I think in my entire career, I think I might have like 6 or 7 in all the years I've done this, 6 or 7 videos that actually have 1 million views on one video. And that's going from my John Campea YouTube channel, Collider, AMC, movie blog. I think I've got like 6 or 7 videos that have hit 1 million views. And there is always this perception out there that, oh, wow, if you got like 1 million views in your video, you probably get like $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 in ad revenue. No. Do you know how much you get? Do you know what you get for, roughly, generally speaking? It gives and takes and all that kind of stuff, but generally speaking, you know what you get for 1 million views? About $1,500. About $1,500 for 1 million views. That's roughly what you get in YouTube ad revenue. Roughly. It goes back and forth. You can get a little bit more at certain times of the year, depending on what your content is about. Like whether maybe your content is about law and insurance, maybe your content's about movies. So that will vary it a little bit too. But yeah, like, so I do a video that makes, like, say, it gets like 30,000 views, right? A video makes 30,000 views. That's great. I don't think, I have to do the math in my head, but I don't think that video gets me $100, right? So there's actually not a lot of revenue for YouTube ads. Not a lot of revenue for that. Some, yeah, definitely some revenue for YouTube ads. Now I see somebody asking in the live chat, I think it was JG writes, how do some YouTubers get stupid rich? Well, then it becomes a a combination of things, right? There are some YouTubers who get stupid rich because number one, you get a lot of views, right? You get like, instead of me where you get like 4 million views a month, you're like somebody else that gets like 50 million views a month or 100 million views a month. Well, that starts to add up. But then on top of that, where the big YouTubers get their real money from is big time sponsorships. Like if you guys watch a YouTube channel, like I'm a tech guy, so I watch a lot of tech YouTubers. You look at Linus Tech Tips, right? In every video, Linus takes 2 spots, 2 times in each one of his videos to stop and say, and now we transition into a word from one of our sponsors today, Expat, where Expat does this, this, and this, and he does like a 30-second ad spot. And then near the end of the video, and his videos are only like 8 minutes long, at the end of the video goes, you know what else was really good? One of our other sponsors today, such and such, and blah, blah. And that's where, and you can get those big sponsorship deals the bigger your channel is. So that's where they get a lot of money from the ads because they're getting like into the tens to the hundreds of millions of views, but their bigger money comes from their sponsorships. The bigger money comes from their sponsorships. So yeah, there's that. All right, guys, let's see. I'm going to do one more. Then we've gone really long today. I got to wrap things up here. We got like a half overtime today. Delays Straw writes, one thing that I don't want to happen in the High Republic is having Sith appear. In canon, by this point, they haven't been extinct. They have been extinct for about 700 years. They are my favorite part of Star Wars, way more than the Jedi, and hope they remain hidden. I'm now off. Well, I mean, yes, I think they can have other threats in the galaxy besides Sith. Now, we know that during the Sith era, during the High Republic era, the Sith are out there. Probably Darth Plagueis is out there during the time of the High Republic. Depending on the time frame, they're from 300 to 80 years before the events of Star Wars: A New Hope. Darth Plagueis is probably out there. And maybe his apprentice, I doubt his apprentice yet is Palpatine. I can't remember who his apprentice was before Palpatine, and Plagueis was somebody else's. So the Sith are out there. But I have a feeling they will focus on other threats in the galaxy, and maybe other Force-using threats in the galaxy. So we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. All right, next up. I just said that was the last one. I know, but I'm going to do one or two more just because I feel like it. Alpha Kevin writes, there are a lot of expressions in Dune rooted in Islamic traditions such as Ummah or the Mahdi. Do you think the movie will lean into that or adapt a different language? I noticed they use crusade in the trailer instead of jihad like in the book. I think they're going to do whatever will more clearly communicate the message to the audience. Right? I think they'll use whatever language that they think will more accurately communicate what it is that's happening in the movie to the audience. And like you say crusade, everybody understands that. You say jihad, some people understand that, some people probably won't. So I don't know, they may make that choice. I don't think it's going to go, I don't, look, whatever changes they make, there's always going to be people in the audience that are going to rush to try to find make up some reason why they made that change. And really at the end of the day, they'll probably make the change just for how it comes across to the audience and how it works with the audience, but we'll see. We'll see. I am very curious to see how they handle that. Let's see. Dylan's Dialogue writes, hey, John. Well, today is Hayao Miyazaki's 80th birthday. I didn't realize that. In celebration, I decided to watch Spirited Away, one of the best. One of my favorite Studio Ghibli films. Have you seen any of the Ghibli films? I've seen them all. And if so, which is your favorite? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Actually, one of my, back in the day, I'm going to see if I can find an image for this. Back in the day, we used to do March Movie Madness. Whenever the March Madness tournament was coming around, we would do March Movie Madness, and we did all these different tournaments. One year, we did an animation tournament, and we broke it into 2 brackets. We broke it up just like basketball brackets. We broke it up into 2 brackets. And we had one bracket, the John Lasseter bracket, of course, because he was the head of Pixar and Disney Animation. And the other bracket was the Miyazaki bracket. And we had an entire Miyazaki bracket, and I cannot find I want to show this picture, and I cannot find it. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find this here. Anyway, whatever. Some of the ones that stand out to me, My Neighbor Totoro, that's a good one. Howl's Moving Castle is probably the best one, but I'll tell you what, the movie from Studio Ghibli that probably made the most impact on me, and not in a good way, was Fireflies. What's the damn name of it? Night of the Fireflies? Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the Fireflies? Is it Grave of the Fireflies? Grave. Quirky Joe is saying grave. Yes. And Henko and Steve. Yes. Grave of the Fireflies. All right. And Donaldo Martinez sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Donaldo. So, Grave of the Fireflies. I watched that movie. And listen, it is heavy and deep and profound. It is. But by the time that movie was over, it felt like somebody took a meat tenderizing hammer and beat me in the balls with it. That's how I felt at the end of Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the Fireflies is so it's soul crushing. It's absolutely soul crushing. Like, that movie ends and you just want to stick your head in a toilet. And like, it is just, I'm not saying it isn't incredibly told, powerfully deep. Movies are experiential events, yes, but oh my God, I can never watch that film again. I'm not saying the movie isn't great. I ain't saying it ain't brilliant, but oh my God. Yeah. Hold on, somebody's saying type in Pixar versus Ghibli bracket. Hold on, let me try this. Pixar versus Ghibli bracket AMC. I'll try looking for that. See if I can find it then. Okay. Well, I see if the video comes up, but can you find the image? Oh, the image is there. Oh, I love this. Let me show you guys this because this is great. I think Ray put this image together for me. So here's the bracket. This was the bracket. So this was our AMC. By the way, Ray made this image. Didn't Ray do a great job on this? So we had, say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, wait, how many? 1, 2, 16. So we had 32 films, right? 32 animated films up for our best animated movie of all time. And on the one side, we had the Lasseter bracket, and on the other side, we had the Miyazaki bracket. And those are just random whatever. And ultimately, I believe the winner of our March Movie Madness Championships for animated thing, I believe ended up being Lion King, which was a number 1 seed. So our 2 number 1 seeds on the one side, Lion King was our number 1 seed on the one side. Toy Story 3 was our number 1 seed on the other side. On the Lasseter bracket, our number 2 seed was Aladdin. On the Miyazaki side, our number 2 seed was Toy Story 2. Anyway, I believe at the end of the day, Lion King ended up winning that bracket. And a lot of people ask me if I'll do another March Movie Madness. And I don't know, because they're very, very time consuming to do. But I'm not going to lie to you, looking at this image again makes me want to do another March Movie Madness tournament. Because they were a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing these March Movie Madness tournaments. So maybe I should do another one. I don't know. We'll see maybe if I have the time. But God, Ray did such a good job on he even made the basketball court look like that. And he did just such a good job with that. Anyway. Okay. You know what, guys? Now this will be the last question. Last question of the day, because I got a lot of work I got to do today, so I got to split. Next one up comes to us from Josh Ward, who writes, I just wanted to thank you for pushing me to start writing a script for a short fan film. Hearing you tell so many others that the key is just to do it finally convinced me to start. Keep up the great work. You're motivating more people than you realize. Well, that is awesome to hear, Josh. I'm so glad you're going to step out there and do that. And again, it's true. Too many people sit around and think about what they want to do instead of using their time to doing what they want to do. I have always said this, do something every day, no matter how big or how small, to move you a little bit closer to your goals. You want to become an actor? Okay, well, do something today that moves you towards their goals. Even if it's just take 5 minutes to watch some YouTube video on somebody talking about acting technique. Even if that's all you do today, do something every day, no matter how big or how small, that moves you a little bit closer to what your goals are. Do something. Too many people get caught up in the getting started and just sitting on their ass because we're lazy. We are lazy creatures by nature. As a species, we're incredibly lazy. So it's a thing about just getting out there and doing it. You want to be an animator? Just pick up a pencil, start drawing something today. Maybe you suck, like I suck at drawing, but maybe you suck, but do something today and every day you'll get a little bit better. I don't know. But anyway, you know what, Josh, you did something. You wrote a script for a short film. You didn't just think about doing it. You did it. That's the key thing. Good on you. And you're an example to everybody else. So well done, my friend. Well done. Okay, guys. We have now gone 2 hours and 45 minutes today. We need to wrap today up a little bit. For everybody from Josh Ward, Brennan M., Casey McNatt, do not worry. I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later tonight, and we will get all caught up on all the questions that got sent in today. You guys sent in questions today. They're going to get answered in a video properly. So thank you for sending that in. All right, guys. That'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Special thank you to all you guys who did send in those live comments and questions because number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that. Don't forget, guys, come on back. The John Campea Show will return again tomorrow. Also, guys, remember, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Please do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.